Welcome, all my children, to ClassHorrorCast. I'm one of the hosts of this ridiculously scary and bloody good time. Uh, Tomcat, aka Tom Thompson. I'm in my Freddy Krueger regalia. Is that a word?
I thought you were gonna
Gear.
have. I thought you were gonna change your like AKA thing up to have some like Freddy Krueger Easter eggs in there.
I keep trying to think about it. I don't know. AKA the five finger fucker. I don't know. Sorry, everybody, if you don't enjoy swearing. I don't know. He
Tough.
does attempt to do that a couple times, you
He
know?
does actually. Yeah, that's true. I
So,
remember I used to think. Is it in Freddy versus Jason where he makes that joke
yes.
with the chick where he's like, what is it? He's like the first time gets a little bloody or something like that.
Yeah, and he's putting his claws up her
Yeah,
skirt. I'm like, they're pushing the boundaries. I guess he's supposed to be a child molesting
I
murderer,
remember
so
seeing that though when I was younger and like chuckling really hard, thinking like that was like the most hilarious thing ever.
you're probably like, I wish I could do that.
Yeah, I was like, I wish I, came before in my whole life or had an erection.
Welcome back to the show. And who are we?
Well, you're Freddy Krueger. I actually didn't know if I was going to do that again because I wanted to wear the mask and everything, but it was just like so
I
awful
was
the
like,
last time.
I know, whatever. I just was like, I'm gonna throw the sweater on and go back to it. I changed my studio around to do the other angle. I got my Freddy Krueger mask up
I was just going to say I
on my
like that.
stuff. It's pretty cool.
What
It's
Krueger
uh,
mask
it's
is that?
it's the one from A New Nightmare, which will be coming eventually. We're just choosing not to add it into this deep dive because we're gonna do it on its own. But this is the poster. Yes, so when I walk in this room when I'm on magic mushrooms, that her eyes look into my fucking soul.
It's the top part of that poster that always freaks me out. I can never like
Yeah.
make out what it is. I'm like, okay, it's some sort of a claw and like weird eyeballs.
Yeah, and there's like kind of like hair and stuff, but
Yeah,
it's like
it's like
her hair.
so freaky.
I don't understand. What were you guys going for? So we're back with the next deep dive. Like we said, we are getting balls deep into Freddy Krueger's.
Burnt
So,
asshole.
and this is gonna, yeah, exactly. Well, he probably definitely has that. It's probably hard to wipe because every time he wipes, it would just be scabby.
Oh
I'm sorry for
Jesus
everyone that was visual, but
Christ.
it would be so gross because every time you like make the scab worse, and then you'd be like rubbing poo poo on your scab, and then it's just like that's not good. But I remember hearing like that if you have a cut on your finger, it is more. It is. I might be wrong about this, but I heard that it's like if you rub it, it would be worse to rub it on or worse to lick it than it would be to rub it on your bum hole because like your mouth is so dirty with bacteria that your bum is actually more clean than your mouth. And I could be wrong about this, but I remember hearing that.
So if anybody, I actually got a cut earlier on my finger, so I might try shove it up my ass during the episode and
just,
see
just
what
to see, and
happens.
then let me know what happens to your finger in a week.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I won't wash it or do anything else with it. I'll just leave it
Yeah,
like that.
what's that? My ass. Stupid.
There's another one of those things I remember like as a kid seeing that and literally like screeching like a banshee because I thought it was like the funniest shit I ever heard.
Yes, welcome back. We are definitely a strange podcast between my show and your show, and this is allows us to do a lot of fun things with our between our podcasts. And we are both extremely massive fans of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, so this should be fairly fun. We've done a couple commentaries, so everyone out there, you will hear the Nightmare on Elm Street 4 commentary and Nightmare on Elm Street 5 commentary, especially by the time one comes out. Both commentaries should be out. And then we did a very special kind of uncensored one on Nightmare on Elm Street 6. It was a riot. We were having way too much fun. I drank like gin and beers and so we decided it's more appropriate for Patreon. So this is why you subscribed. It's gonna be both of on our Patreons. So the best way to support Class Horrorcast is go find the links for the Patreon and subscribe. And then obviously on the Strange Brew podcast side, you can do that also. And we both have different content on each side, but it's that's the best way to support this show and my show is just by supporting the Patreon. It is very cheap, and you get a bunch of fun content and different things. And there'll be definitely more stuff coming for like I would say live stream stuff, very uncut, uncensored commentaries on more obscure films where we can really dive into our thoughts about the film. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm excited for that to come.
before we came on air for this, I was throwing out to Tom the idea of doing. To be honest with you, I would love to keep it as like an ongoing series, maybe at some point, depending on how it goes. But to do a live watch along where you guys can actually watch Faces of Death 1, 2, 3, and 4 with us, and then maybe if that goes well, we could. Again, this will probably be Patreon exclusive or member exclusive.
Yeah,
If that goes well, maybe we could do. There was like all these other companies that tried their own versions. Like there's Traces of Death, and there's all these different like kind of offshoots.
yeah,
But that would be fun because a lot of those
racist
are
of death.
they don't they don't get they don't get copywritten or anything because it's all stock footage and like the way it's all put together. You can actually like live stream it and
Yeah,
watch it at the same time.
laces of death. It's a bunch of football players lacing up their boots and then like kicking each other in the face. I don't know. That was
God,
dumb.
you're usually funnier than that.
I know that was a bad one. I'm gonna smoke a joint on this one. Chelsea's not too happy about it, but I'm going to in my room, in my podcast room. She's like, "It's gonna stink." I was like, "It'll be fine. The window will be open." But I got a cold brew coffee. Shout it out, whatever, because I like coffee, but not all the time. Just cold brew is good. And then I have this fun. It's funny how your phone listens to you, right? Like I was just talking about like this. Like I had it like last week or whatever. This lemonade, Seth and Riley's Garage Hard Lemonade, and then I saw a commercial on my TV popped up about it. I'm like,
Yeah, it's freaky. It's like the amount of times we have conversations about shit and then I'll be like on TikTok or something and like
yeah,
stuff will pop up that I've never looked at, but then I'll be like, wait, weren't we talking about that?
yeah, it's scary. So imagine what else they're doing.
Welcome to my nightmare.
All right, let's get in. Yeah, that's pretty much my nightmare is having a Orwellian state. So let's just get into like the Nightmare on Elm Street. This one is fun. I've been watching some of the docs, and let's dive into number 4.
Every town has an Elm Street.
So, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4 The Dream Master is a 1988 American fantasy slasher film and the fourth installment in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. It was directed by Rennie Harlan and stars Robert Englund again as Freddy Krueger, Lisa Wilcox. Following the death of Nancy Thompson, Krueger reappears in the dreams of Kristen Parker, Joel, and Roland Kincaid after completing his revenge against the families who killed him. Krueger uses Kristen's best friend Alice Johnson to gain access to new victims in order to satiate his murderous needs. The film is a sequel to Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors, and the Dream Master is often popularly referred to as the MTV nightmare of the franchise.
Why is it MTV? Is it because it's like or
Isn't that
80s? Like
yeah? Didn't they start to bring in all that weird like? Because I feel like this movie was probably the start of that for the franchise, where like
yeah.
yeah, where they started to do like those like rap videos and like Freddy was showing up on like fucking MTV and all these places. I feel like this was the movie
Yeah,
that probably started that.
yeah, after this movie, because I think we'll mention Freddy's Nightmares after this one because that's when it got, kind of released and they started really pushing him into like he was already becoming like this cultural phenomenon where like even people like Ronald Reagan were making statements about like oh it's starting to look like Nightmare on Elm Street and like it was everywhere, right? Like and the references to the movie, references to Freddy Krueger, but he was even rapping with the Fat Boys,
Yeah,
like which
yeah,
is kind of
just
funny.
wild.
So like, so there's a lot of he just became so popular, almost. Jason is very popular. Always will be. Friday 13th is like a staple in the slasher 80s slasher films. But because Freddy Krueger had a personality, could talk, you could utilize that and then start putting him in commercials. There was like so many things that
Hmm.
they kind of it's a cash cow. They're just trying to make money wherever they could.
Would you say overall, if you were to look at all the different characters from all different franchises, would you say Freddy is probably the most well known?
I would probably. Um, I feel like Ghostface is now fairly popular since people are making like cartoon porn about it and stuff like that and weird things and
Weird.
yeah, yeah, like fan fiction stuff, like like that anime,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
hentai or whatever. I've seen people talk about it or like jokes about like a clip from it or whatever, and I'm like so weird that like people put their fantasies where people are like even like Harry Potter and stuff like that, like all these very famous franchises, and then people are like, you know what I want to do, I'm gonna make some cartoon porn about it. And it seems like this happens so often in
I
that
never
those
got that,
weird
you know.
like, basements, like
Yeah, I never really got that. I remember years ago when when people first started to have like cell phones that you could. I don't know what it was like with you guys over that side of the world, but like here you would have like uh especially like when we were younger, nobody had we call it bill pay, which is like
yeah,
having like a cell phone plan basically.
yeah, yeah,
But the other option here was like a prepay, like a pay as you go kind of thing. So like
yeah. We used to
if
do that.
yeah, like if we got a phone as a kid, I remember like some of the first phones, and like you would get like like €10 credit, and
Yeah.
that was kind of like your allowance or whatever. And like I remember people like used to share like these pictures and images, like, and it'd take like 25 minutes
Mhm.
to fucking
Yeah.
infrared the fucking picture. And I remember having
Yeah.
ones of like, I don't know, like Bart Simpson, like fucking Marge and Lisa and all this stuff. And I used to always just be
Almost like a
fascinated. I was
GIF
like,
kind of thing.
yeah, I was like, why is this even like, I don't even get what this is.
I'm sure that it's way more popular than we even understand. And there's probably people being like, don't shame me. That's my
I just
afternoon
don't,
jerk.
yeah, but I just don't understand what's the allure when like I can go and look at actual like women or men or whatever. Like that's the thing I can't understand.
I don't know, and I feel like we've probably in some realm, people probably think this is crazy. But it's like, who knows about the things that we have created with our subconscious of other realities that we have no idea about from putting stuff into our reality, and then it like kind of branches off into some sort of other like alternate dimension. I don't know, I'm shooting in the dark, but I think that we live in a somewhat simulation, so it could be quite possible. But like how they really, and that just shows, right, when something becomes so popular in pop culture and society, not even like but just in pop culture in general kind of thing, that once it becomes like some sort of like porn, then it's like, oh, that's pretty, it's everyone knows about this,
Yeah,
where
it's
they're
like
actively
crossed over.
creating stuff like that. Yeah. Because I'm sure that this got the fact that it got so popular where he was rapping with people doing like commercials and all that stuff constantly. Like it was such a big thing that everyone knew his name. But I'm sure that within the realms of slasher killers, at least, he's probably up there. Like if you go to Japan and you show them Freddy and Jason, I feel like more people they would know both, I think, but I think more people would Freddy, that's Freddy.
Jesus.
Sorry.
Jesus. Um, it must be
Christ.
wild though. I was just like, as you were talking, I was like sitting there and I was like, it's got to be crazy to be one of those people, like, or the creator of something like Freddy or Michael Myers, or
Yeah.
I was thinking a lot about Chucky there. He's another one that like I think is so well known.
Yeah.
The idea of Chucky, and like Don Mancini is still massively involved with Chucky, always has been. He's
Mhm.
doing season 3 of the Chucky TV show, and like it must be wild. I know they probably, when you're a creative like that and you're at that level, you probably don't sit there every day and think about it. But
No.
like there's got to be times, right, where you sit back and go, holy shit, like I created something that like after my kids are dead, this is still going to be like a thing.
If we don't witness the end of the world in the
Well,
next
yeah,
50 years.
that's true.
So, but no, I agree. Cause like, even like someone like Robert England, right? We're like, he's not always, extreme, like he's very positive obviously about Nightmare on Elm Street to an extent, but there's times where I've heard him say some negative things, or not be like super impressed with some of the direction the films went, or complaining about like having the makeup on for the time that he did. But it made you lived off these movies and could have not done anything else in your career and probably lived until your death and had a good amount of money and make appearances and make money off that. So like to me, V's a great show. He was in a bunch of different stuff. Like there's a bunch of stuff that was Robert England was in that I did enjoy, but without Freddy Krueger, I truly don't believe his career would have gotten to what it did, and he wouldn't have been probably as profitable or famous without Freddy Krueger.
I mean, like he actually had a really good movie. Maybe sometime down the line we should do a commentary or something called the Last Showing. I think it is, where he's like a projectionist
That sounds
in
interesting.
a movie theater. Yeah, it's really good, and like I won't say any more about it, but that's something we should probably look at. But I mean, like I don't know the exact specifics of this, but like his net worth apparently ballpark is anywhere from 16 to 20 million, and like that's, you think about that, like
Yeah.
that's some serious cash, and he's still doing conventions and making appearances, and I can't imagine that he doesn't make, like, I don't know what the going rate is for to meet Robert England or to have something signed or take a picture, but like you got to figure he's making probably tens of thousands.
100%. And I don't know, like it's, and then by this movie, by number four, it was like this one did very well. When it got released, we'll probably discuss that, but like um, it's too bad that they couldn't have got the lead from the third movie to play in the fourth because they wanted to, and then some discrepancies with her agent or something like that, and they couldn't get her. But it probably could have been a little more cohesive. And even some of the actors on the Never Sleep Again documentary were talking about how it, who knows what it could have been if they actually had her in the lead. But again, this one I enjoy a lot. I enjoy a lot of these movies, except for the fifth one is by far the worst in my opinion. Um, but this one is at least semi cohesive, and then but it's still another one of these movies that are just like thrown together. It's like
There you go. Like, just to go back on that, like Robert England currently, well, as of 2020, for conventions, he was charging in or around $90 for an autograph and 55 for a photo.
I could see that.
And like, and I'm not even giving out about that or anything. Like, I'm not saying like that sounds about right considering he is
I
Freddy
paid
Krueger.
I paid $60 to meet Nev Campbell and to get her to sign my titty picture of her.
And the other side, I feel like, and I don't mean this in like a negative light, but, and I know I'd be feeling the same if I was Robert Englund. People might say, oh, but why is it like, Freddy is from so long ago now? How is
Yeah.
it still relevant? But I feel like in a morbid kind of way, it's probably even more relevant in the sense of like, what's Robert Englund now in his 70s?
Yeah.
So that kind of drives the demand up because at some point he won't be around.
Yeah, I have the signed creep show from George A. Romero, and I was like, it might be worth some money eventually one day, just because like it is cool. Like I met him, I shook his hand, something that was kind of
That's
cool and
wild.
significant. I know, and that now he's gone. It's just like you never know, and that's why I'm like, hey, Robert England, one more
I know,
time,
I swear to God, like I just,
come on,
please, like,
just
it's
sit there in a chair, let them put fucking CGI shit on your face, and then you don't even have to wear a mask, and they could still do it.
it's weird,
You
right?
know,
Because
like Avatar, bro.
I sit here as somebody who doesn't have any career really,
Yeah,
and I say like, oh, if that was me, I'd make them movies till I was on my deathbed and whatever. And maybe if you lived a life like that and you're getting pulled in every direction and everybody wants you to do everything all the time, maybe you would just be
yeah.
like, I'm sick of this. But like at the same time, I can't help but feel like, surely to God, in your later years in life, you go, wouldn't it be nice to leave that lasting legacy, like to come back? And because that would be
Yeah.
huge if he came back again as Freddy Krueger in Nightmare on Elm Street, dude. That would probably make so much fucking money.
Or what realistically they could do is get him to do certain lines. There's ways to do this where he would have to do like nothing but still could get enough probably for him to be satisfied. But you do a cast of his face, you get a very skinny,
Yeah,
small-headed man because
yeah,
this mask that I have is based on Robert Englund's head, and I cannot get it on at all. Like his head is tiny. So, and then you take a decent actor that's like skinny and smaller or whatever, and you put the cast over his face that looks exactly like Robert Englund's. Because there's if they wanted to keep it practical, or you use the CGI, you can do it with Avatar for like one really big, and because I think it would make money in the box office. Nightmare on Elm Street, and then somehow transition it into like a newer actor, and then like Candyman type of shit. I don't know. I feel like
yeah,
there's ways to do
yeah.
it. Like I said last time, there's ways to do it, and I don't know. I feel like it'd be worth it. Long lasting legacy, but who knows? It's just I want this bad. I
Yeah.
want them to make up for fucking that goddamn. Well, which we will talk about eventually. Where maybe we'll do like commentary and review in the same episode kind of thing of the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street. Because like I'm like I still
Such a
like it
pity.
for I still like it some of it.
Same,
It's just like
same.
but it's so bad. The actors are the worst part. To be honest, there's a lot of people that are like lacking chops.
Yeah, and it's not even like one of those ones where it's like so bad it's good. It's just like so
Yeah.
bad, and I'm like, oh God.
When I was watching this the Never Sleep Again documentary, I wrote down I was like some of these fucked now, especially the blonde from number 4. Cuz if you see, I don't know if you recognize the one blonde from number 4, I'm going to bring up so I can tell you guys. Um she looks like a different person. It looks like she got really bad botched like plastic surgery and then gained weight and there's a movie. I think there's definitely a horror movie and it looks like this I can't try to think of it. Some sort of creature. Tuesday Night.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Look
yeah,
her up
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
Oh geez. A lot of them look some of them look pretty rough. Some look pretty good. And if you look at some of the images, it's like wow, she was like pretty good looking and then destroyed her face with like cheek filler and like chin thing. It's just crazy. It's crazy. I'm looking at pictures of her in the movie and then what she looks like now. And it's like mind blowing how much different she looks. It's weird.
Yeah, not
Can you
good.
bring up an image? Can you find the worst image of
Um,
her and then bring it up on screen so everyone can see what we're talking about?
let me see. Let me see. Let me
Just quickly.
see.
It is because even the one who's the other guy, he just looks like a weirdo. Let me bring it. The guy that played Joey, Rudy Eastman, not mean to be like rude, but like this guy also is kind of weird. And he's like, oh, the titty scene. He's like, pretty cool to come to work and get to see a bunch of boobies. And it's just like, you just sound like a weirdo.
I'm trying to find like a really hideous picture of her. So okay, right. So to give people a little bit of context,
Not meaning to be rude, but like she
this
did
is
way
the
too much.
chick we're talking
Yeah.
about. That's
Yeah.
on screen right now. Um, so that's the chick we're talking about. Actually, I just found this. Is this? No. Oh no, that's not her. But that's some weird looking fucking. That's Robert Englund, but it's so fucking weird looking. What the
Oh,
fuck is
weird.
that?
Why is the
That
eyes
was
so dark?
the.
He looks like he has no. What's that? That thing you get where you like your eyes black. It's Pete fucking. What's that guy? That guy that
Um,
fucked Kim Kardashian. Uh,
Pete Davidson.
Pete Davidson has that where he's like a
Yeah, yeah.
ghost.
That's
It's just
freaky
like
looking, man. It
whoa.
looks like he has no teeth.
I know. Everyone listens on the audio. It's obviously like we really do try to target towards both audiences, but some of this stuff it is very fun to watch the videos. Even if you go back later on and want to revisit it, check it out on YouTube because we're gonna put it on both of ours. At least the deep dives. I'll probably put all of this stuff. Just yeah. Even there, she just looks so different. But on the doc, she looked worse than that. Like it's like that's like okay, but on the doc, it looked. She just looked bad and like her cheeks were like Yeah, she's got some really bad work done, and that's not even doing it justice. To be honest, the picture's not even doing it justice. From go, if you watch the Never Sleep Again, oh, I found one of the pictures from Never Sleep Again. She looks like a blow up doll, but a really like a one that got beat up. You know?
She's
Sorry.
I've been trying to find.
Yeah, like that's what I just pulled up. Like it just, I don't know. It doesn't look. It's just sad when people like whatever people gain weight, you get older, but when you start to try to change your face.
Yeah,
Like
I just
even Joan
and then
Rivers, you look like a monster. Look at she looks like she looks like Madonna now. How
and
Madonna get this like
yeah,
it's just like what
scary.
happened to your face, man? Like a fake doll thing, but it puffs out your cheeks. So they keep adding more shit.
And
So
like
weird.
the thing about it is, um, like you have to allow for just like natural aging as well to a degree, and the fact that like your body and your facial features are gonna change anyway. So you're
Yeah,
getting this shit done, and then like everything around what you've gotten done has changed. So it's like
yeah.
morphing the shit that you've got done.
Sorry, men age like a fine whiskey, and women age like bread.
What I always say is that men age like wine and women age like milk.
Yeah,
All
it's a sad fact, but
lumpy and like smell like shit.
sorry for there is I will admit there's very attractive older women. I used to very much be into like the milfs and stuff when I was younger and shit like that. Like older women are all right in my book if you keep care of yourself. But like there's a necro line where he says something about like when men get old they blossom and women start rotting or something. It's just like oh that's a little
Yeah, well, it is kind of true, though. And I don't even mean that in like a bad way, but that's kind of like the look of the draw there.
yeah,
Um,
and we'll get back to Nightmare on Elm Street, but I just want to say one thing for Strange Brew podcast. I actually do think it'd be a very fun live, especially do I want to do an episode on botched surgeries.
oh, that'd be good.
Just
That'd be
like
freaky.
just find the most a very like funny open episode. And I just thought about that the other day. I was like, that would be kind of fun because we're able to do anything on my side, anything that's strange. So technically, there's some really bad botched surgeries. So including this Tuesday nights. But she got a cool
Um,
name. I'll give her that.
yeah, that's kind of like a porn name, really, isn't it?
Uh, Yeah, I'm fucking Tuesday night on Tuesday night. You have to
Really?
have sex on a Tuesday night and be like, I'm inside of Tuesday night on a Tuesday night. Get it? It's nice.
Um, so yeah, The Dream Master was released on August 19th, 1988. It grossed 49.4 million at the domestic box office on a budget of 6.5 million,
Yeah,
which
that's
made it
really good.
the highest grossing film in the franchise in the United States until the
Yeah.
release of Freddy vs. Jason,
Wow,
which was
that's
a
pretty
crossover,
good.
obviously. The Dream Master received mixed reviews from critics, but I think like in the late 80s to make what $50 million off the back of 6 million budget
It's
is
really good.
probably like ridiculous. So on screen now, like Tom was talking about, sometimes we will be talking about things that we're looking at.
Yeah.
So if that does interest you, make sure to come over to the YouTube site as well.
That's done.
Um,
The name is Freddy Krueger. It's like the golden eye, and it's like he has these,
so
but
bad.
the claws, the knife fingers look way too long for his hand. That's
Yeah, it's weird looking at.
really
I don't know
weird.
why it reminded me of Insidious, which actually I saw Insidious: The Red Door last night.
What'd you think? I heard not great things.
It was okay at best. I was
Okay.
actually expecting to really like it at one stage at the start. I was like, oh, this is actually like going back to, the very first one, and it's going to be really good. But it
Yeah.
just, I don't know, it just kind of felt a bit weird. I think the fact as well that, what's his name, Patrick Wilson, who plays the dad or whatever,
Yeah.
he also directed this one.
I don't know. I feel like they go too far with these movies.
Yeah, so it was a
Like
bit
the first
weird.
two Insidious movies were good. First two Conjurings were good. And my brother, he's a big fan of this show. He he likes all of them and told me to watch them in succession and the way they're supposed to be watched. And I was like, I'll do it one day.
That would
But
actually
like
be fun to do. I would like to do it in like the chronologically or whatever it is.
it could
That
be
would
a
be quite
Patreon
fun.
thing or whatever. Even for if we want to do it for the show, I would be open to it because I liked Annabelle. The first one I remember seeing in theaters and be like, "Ooh, cool!" They just it's sometimes they show too much, with these, like Nightmare on Elm Street, it's like the point is showing too much. You're supposed to like the effects, the gore. It's all kind of part of the fun. When you have ghost and paranormal movies and you show too much, it ruins it for me. It's I like we watched that
Yeah.
movie. We'll get back to Nightmare on Elm Street in 2 seconds. We watched the movie Mary about the ghost ship. Is on Netflix, and I was like, "Oh, this isn't too bad." There's some like bigger names in it, and they showed way too much, and it was very bad CGI. And it was just like, you could have just left it up to the imagination.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes that's actually better than trying to like show
100%.
something, especially when you
I don't
don't
mean to
have.
say I could make a better movie, but I could make a better movie. Give me the money, give me budget, give me actors. I'll fucking throw something together that's better than half
Give
this
me
shit.
money. If you had to pick one of these posters on screen right now, is there anyone in particular that you would pick as like your number one?
I do like the OG one of her, like him, like really getting up in Tuesday night's grill, but I do like the one Lachanamir de Freddy. I think that's obviously a French one.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
It's just kind of cool, like his face. Like, and I loved the art for Nightmare on Elm Street stuff when I was a kid. Like I've said before on the
Same.
show, I would when the internet first popped off, and when I wasn't watching porn, I was looking like his, I back in my day, kids, it took like 5 minutes for a picture to load. So and truly, like, you'd have to wait for like you'd be like, oh, half a nipple, full nipple, okay, stomach, bush, and it'd take forever. So I would spend a lot of time like looking at like. Not just porn, but horror movie posters, pictures. I would go on the site, especially when Freddy vs. Jason came out, stuff like that. So I love looking at the imagery, and then I would try to draw it. I should look and see if I can find any of my drawings that I used to do. I used to do a bunch of different horror drawings, and they weren't too bad. I can draw fairly well, and I used to love looking at this stuff, dude, and all this dumb posters. That one's kind of fun. It's more like
Yeah,
artistic.
I was the same with that stuff. Do you want to hear actually while we have the posters and stuff up on screen? Do you want to hear some of the taglines for this one?
Yeah, so let's do that.
And you've got to pick your favorite at the end.
Okay.
There's actually quite a few for this one. Okay, so first up we have "You shouldn't have buried me. I'm not dead."
I feel like I
Doesn't
remember that one kind of.
doesn't really feel like it means anything, but
Yeah.
then we have for the UK we have the names Krueger, Freddy Krueger.
Dumb. It's like let's just sell it to the British people like it's James Bond.
Uh, Next one, "Are you ready for Freddy?"
It's easy. Yeah.
"Greetings from hell."
Yeah.
"Just when you thought it was safe to go back to bed."
And that's it.
Yep.
I would say, are you ready for Freddy? Yes, because it's like,
Oh no,
are
sorry.
you ready?
Sorry, no, there is another couple. We have "Terror Beyond Your Wildest Dreams." "Pure Evil Never Really Dies," and "The Biggest Nightmare of Them All."
The last two are not that bad.
Yeah, they're probably my favorite.
Pure Evil Never Dies is not bad. It's not bad. I don't mind.
Biggest
I don't
Nightmare.
mind that one. I don't mind that one. I'm gonna see if I can. There's some fun facts. Weird. I didn't know Robert Englund wasn't originally behind the project. While Nightmare on Elm Street series had several directors working on the franchise, Robert Englund was always consistent. England almost was replaced in Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, but New Line Cinema quickly realized it was a critical part of the franchise. That being said, England wasn't originally behind the idea of a Nightmare on Elm Street 4. Dream Masters England admitted in the documentary Never Sleep Again that Elm Street Legacy that he was worn out from his other acting gigs and didn't really like the idea that he wanted to be in Nightmare on Elm Street 4. However, the director, Rainey Harlan, won England over kind of thing and others in the first cut of the footage that they put together. I didn't know that he was like, yeah, I just watched that doc, but I remember hearing him say like, oh yeah, I don't know if I necessarily wanted to do it. I was kind of worn out and yeah, I know he hated the makeup and stuff.
Yeah,
and
which look I get to a degree.
that's when we get to 5. It looks horrible. And then 6 even worse.
Another fun fact, the name of the diner where Alice works is called the Crave Inn, which is obviously a reference to Wes Craven.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the scene. That's the cool. Actually, like the diner scene's fun. We can start getting like it's up to you want to get in the kill scenes, but there's a couple of fun stuff on here.
there's a few other things that I had seen when I was looking up stuff about the movie. So the
Yeah.
director Rennie Harlan, he actually got the job because I think he pitched for it a few times and they were like, look, no, it's just not going to work or whatever. We're just not interested. And
Yeah.
rather than just accept that and be like, all right, okay, you've told me no now several times, he would just show up to the New Line offices like every day and kept going around and asking everybody,
Oh, this Swedish guy, right?
yeah, could he speak to Robert Shea? You know, I need to
This is
speak to Robert Shea. And, you know, people were like, well,
he
what
would
is
like
this
yeah, he wouldn't
guy?
even go. He'd come up unannounced.
And then I don't know what happened. They were like talking to all these other directors and they kind of, I don't know, they never really like clicked with anybody else. And then he just seemed to always be around. Um, and that's
Yeah,
how
and then
he
they
kind of,
finally gave him a
yeah,
chance.
like he just kind of fell into the position. And like there was a couple of different interviews that I watched where they were talking about like him and saying like he always seemed to wear the same clothes like for weeks on end. He stank really bad. Um, I think,
Let's give him a job. Let's
yeah,
just
I
make
think
him
Bob Shea
shower.
joked. He was like, "Okay, I'll give you the role so you get some money to buy yourself some clothes and a bar of soap." That was like a joke he had or whatever. Um, and then there's an interview with Rennie Harlan himself, and he was like, "Yeah, when I finally got onto set and whatever and started to work, I thought it was going to be completely different." He was like, Bob Shea rarely ever spoke to me throughout the shoot, even though he would
Yeah.
visit the set nearly every day.
With a
Um,
fucking mean look on his face. He looked like he was like grumpy all the time,
yeah,
according to the director.
yeah. He said it was really weird filming the cameo, because he just didn't talk. Um, the tension meant that he basically had like he every day he went to work he was like, oh, I'm gonna get thrown off this movie. I know for a fact I'm gonna be thrown off this movie.
Yeah.
Um, and he kind of thinks that that's why he worked so hard on it because he felt like every single day Bob Shea would show up that he was just getting
Yeah,
ready to be
he's
like, yeah,
uh different place. That was weird. What happened?
I don't know the whole thing. You just went all I couldn't hear anything you said. I could just
I got kicked out for some reason. That was weird.
and he just disappeared.
All right, write this time down, and then we'll just cut it there. You can do it on iMovie, or if you really want me to do it, I can. 41 minutes, and I can splice it very easily. It won't seem so bad. And I'll re-say what I was saying, jokingly. Ready? Just put it back on that screen, and then it will like.
Yep.
Yeah, so it is kind of like, it is. He said to the one actress, let me bring up her name, um, the black actress, and he says he doesn't remember, and then he says he kind of does, and how he says like you need to act more black to that one chick, and you know, I guess when you come from a place that's really white and you have no black people that live there, I'm sure he just is like, that doesn't seem like a black person to me. And it's like, yeah, because you're just thinking typical black person. Um, what's her name? You
Um,
know what I mean? Because that's kind of it's kind of rude, but it's like the '80s thing. Like you need to be more of this, but then people actually identified more with her character not being this overtly stereotypical black woman. And she was like the intelligent, kind of smart, nerdy chick, and I thought it like played well in the movie.
mm-hmm, yeah.
I
Um,
can't find her
it,
name.
it's wild when you look up stuff about these movies. We've said this time and time again, about studios and producers and
Some of the
executives and
stuff that
stuff.
goes on behind
Yeah,
the
and like
scenes.
some of the shit that goes on, like in the screenwriter for this, he was hired after Robert Englund recommended him because he had written the screenplay for Robert Englund's directorial debut, that 976 Evil thing. And then he,
Yeah,
he recommended this guy. He was like, okay, you haven't got a screenwriter or someone to write the script. So he was like, let's get this guy in. And the film had a release date and it had no script and no director at this point. And once again, Bob Shea, with his cool business ethics, he was like, okay, right, I'll give this dude a chance. He has 7 days exactly to write the entire movie. And the day after he got told this, somebody from New Line contacted the screenwriter and told them that the message was coming specifically from Bob Shea, that if the script even came in an hour late, to just tear it up and throw it away.
this is my issue with these movies. It's just like you rush them. In an alternate universe, who knows how much better these movies could have been if they took. Like I said, we get what we get. People enjoy it for what it is. But like at the same time, it could have been way better, and they could have like really ironed out the details and had some very
Yeah,
actually like more or less scary and more thought provoking movie. But in all, number four is pretty, I think it's pretty good considering they rushed it so much. Like there are some very iconic scenes, and it's one that I enjoy more than some of the other ones. And it's fun. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Like
You can get drunk with
I
your buddy and
wouldn't
watch this one.
I wouldn't knock it at all. It's like you always say, like it is what it is, and we get what we get. But it's just interesting to see that, like that dude flew home to Massachusetts for Christmas, and he spent the entire Christmas. He wrote the script at his dad's kitchen table. Then he had to FedEx the finished screenplay back to Los Angeles to make the deadline.
Jesus.
Yeah, and it was just
So
like I
ridiculous.
can imagine, like it was probably fucking hell at that point because at this point that other movie 976 Evil hadn't even released. That came out after Nightmare on Elm Street 4. So this
Yeah.
dude didn't have any movies to his name as a writer. And now you've been given a Nightmare on Elm Street, but you've been told, oh, you've 1 week and you better make it good and don't be late. And it's like, geez, this
I,
could affect the
that's
course of my whole life.
no, 100%. It is kind of crazy because they just rush these things. Even that the Finnish director, um, he he only did that. What's it called? Prison or whatever. It looked weird, like very low budget.
Hmm. And
And
you know what,
have you ever
right?
watched that? Did you ever watch it?
No, no.
Yeah, it didn't look that right.
Here's the thing I don't understand, right? Obviously, Bob Shea, he's not an idiot, right? In
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sense, like he's the head of fucking New Line, like so he's not. It's not like he's dumb or anything. The thing I can't understand though is like how you can sit back in your office and go, okay, I've just told this guy who's supposed to be, he's highly recommended by Robert Englund. I'm giving him 7 days to write a perfect movie. Maybe sit back for a second and go, am I really expecting something high quality in a week?
And well, that's what I'm saying. I feel like a lot of times what ruins these movies or what could have been, like how these movies could have been, I don't know, better in ways, or having taken more time to develop something that would have even made more money, and you've put a little bit more money into it, you'll make it back type of thing. Even though this movie did well for what budget they had, it's always the producers
Yeah, like I
that
mean,
end up.
The apparently the original version, Bob Shea and Uline said that it was too campy and ridiculous, and there was several big cuts made to the film before the theatrical release. The original cut had an alternate score, and there was many deleted and extended scenes. These were nightmare scenes which she chased Freddy, an extended version of the beach scene where Freddy's shadow is touching her and burning her with sunburns. Small parts of these scenes can be seen
That's fun.
for the trailers of the film, and there was also some stills showing the extended beach scene. There was
Why are they
also
never?
I don't know, it's weird, yeah.
Why are they
Like
never released an uncut version
there
of all
was
these films?
there was also an additional nightmare scene with Alice dreaming that her father turns into Freddy. It is believed by fans who first discovered news of these missing scenes that Harlan's original version has been since lost, and only the original script is what contains all the scenes as the footage has gone missing.
Why does that happen? How do you
I
lose
know.
footage?
I know. It's
And
ridiculous.
in that beach scene, was fun. You get Freddy Krueger with the sunglasses. You know what I mean? It's very iconic. It's just weird they threw it together. And I heard that a lot of the dream sequences came right from what's his name, Rainey. His mind or whatever, like his actual own dreams, to an extent. And the Tuesday night, I think that's her scene where she gets killed. Um, he wanted her to show her like ass, and he kept wanting to add more like sexual elements and more nudity in the film.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I know what boys want to see when they see a movie. Like it's just that sounds like this guy watching the doc. I was like, this guy's a little racist, obviously back in the day, but apologized for it, and obviously sounds predatorial in some ways. And then he kind of says that he's like, yeah, maybe it wasn't a great idea, kind of thing, and like admits that he was kind of weird or must have been weird on the set.
Yeah, and you kind of feel like that probably back then, the excuse of being like, "Oh, come on, man, it's the '80s," would have been like
Yeah,
enough to be like, "Well, I get away with being a big creep."
100%. Look at Hollywood in general.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
I wanted to mention like how they ran out of money. At some point during the shoot for Dream Masters, the filmmakers ran out of money. This is why Ricky fights an invisible Freddy for the death scene. I wrote that down too, because originally Ricky was supposed to die in a complex sequence involving an elevator scene in the movie where like he would fall through the elevator into nothingness and it would crumble away and he'd be in this dark void. But instead they had him an invisible Freddy using karate moves. And I guess this guy, like the actor Andreas Jones, it's a fun name, said he even studied karate for a few weeks prior to filming. But once he's on set, they just want him to do punches. Jones even tore his stitches from his appendix surgery and had to be rushed to the hospital. So like they ran out of money. It's like in all these sequences or cut shots, these things that got cut from the film, or they did this in number five when we get to it, where it was like too much or too gory for the people that run. Who is it? There's a name for them, but the people that run the like the editing and how the process of rating films.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they cut a bunch of stuff like the um I think there's stuff cut that was from the cockroach scene, which we can that shit's fucking fun. Um,
Yeah, that's a wild scene.
it's just it's just like all they spent money on scenes that they didn't even use, so then it cuts into the budget, and then they can't finish certain scenes, and then it like kind of ends up ruining films or making it something it could have like that could have been better in some ways. It's just always disappointing to hear some of those things.
I wrote down here actually. I had made a note of. I don't even know what made me think of this at the time, but Kincaid's dog is called Jason in this.
Oh yeah,
And I don't
I
know
guess we
whether
should.
like that was a
That
nod
was
to
on purpose.
like yeah, I don't, yeah, like I can only assume that that was like maybe on purpose as like a little Easter egg, but I thought it was interesting. I wrote down, I was like, kind of funny that Jason brings Freddy back to life in this, and then all those years later in Freddy versus Jason, Freddy brings Jason back to life.
That is interesting, and I feel like we mentioned on the commentary, so you guys will have heard it if you gave it a listen or a watch. But I guess we should discuss what brought Freddy back. because like, do you want to talk about who was it? Wasn't the guy who made Terminator? Um, that who? Why can't I think of this?
James
James. It was
Cameron.
a James Cameron that went up to the director and was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, how you gonna bring back Freddy now?"
yeah. I think he was doing it in kind of like maybe like somewhat of a like friendly way, but I think he was being really condescending about it.
Yeah,
And then like to try and double down on it. Obviously, as you said before, Rennie Harlan is like notoriously a bit psychotic. And I think
yeah.
like as a joke, he thought it'd be funny to be like, oh, it's gonna bring him back with like dog piss. A dog's gonna piss on him and like this whole thing.
Which is so dumb, and I think that Robert England wanted to say more, especially on the doc, but he was like, if you analyze it in an intellectual way, it could be a hellhound, but it is a dumb, stupid. Like, was that fucking dog got gonorrhea? Like, it's like, how did he?
Yeah,
It's
it's
just,
just
you know what I mean? It's just so. There is probably a million other ways that would have been slightly better, cooler, more that would make more sense than just like having Kincaid in some nightmarish junkyard. And I guess the actor that plays Kincaid was like kind of disappointed they cut out, like killed him in the first scene. He was telling people like, "Oh, you better like make sure just go sit down, don't even get your popcorn or your drink because I'm gonna be dead in the first like 5 minutes or whatever." Right?
and I think
And
his original idea for himself, like that actor, he
yeah,
wanted to have like a pretty heavy role throughout this
yeah, I
movie,
know
and
he
like
enjoyed
I
doing
don't
this
know if it
very
was
well.
like New Line or whatever, like nah, we're good, we're just gonna get it.
Yeah, we only need one black person in this film. Thank you
Now I
very much.
think the other side of that is right. I've seen some behind the scenes interviews where they talk about that, and I
Yeah,
can kind of understand to a degree if this was the reason. But I think they felt like that killing him off at the start like that would have that impact of like and way before its time, but like similar to the idea maybe of when we see Drew Barrymore die at the start of Scream. I think
yeah,
people were supposed to be like,
yeah.
oh, Kincaid is like this established character from number three, and now he's dead immediately. Oh my god, this must be a completely different Freddy.
Yeah, and it didn't play out
No,
that
it
well
just
because they
fell
should have done
flat. It
that
just
number
didn't.
5.
Yeah.
There's certain things that could have been done better. I think the idea of the dog pissing on Freddy to bring him back to life is sorry but retarded. It's just it's so stupid that it's like beyond stupid. You know what I mean? Like it could have been. There's
Yeah,
so
like
many
it's not
different
even funny.
ways. No. Especially within the dream sequence, it could have been simplified in a very simple way, but like enough where it would have made sense. Like, and when we get to number 5, I think it's number 5, I think it's the one where Peter Jackson was writing a script for it, and it was like that the kids went into the dream world to beat up Freddy because he's became weak, and it's just like that would have been cool, like kind of thing, like something like different like that, or it's a dream world, so you have him exhume the energies of the kids somehow. I don't know. If I actually sat down, I could probably think of a really good idea in the matter of 10 minutes. So it's just funny that the director obviously uh Rainey Harlan thought about that and then said that to James Cameron and then just was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna do it." And it's just like. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
Disappointing.
It is kind of a weird like progression there, where I'm like, really though.
I know. It's
It's
it
like you
is
said, I don't.
strange.
I don't even find it like funny.
Let's
It's
throw
just
back to the cockroach scene. I will say the cockroach scene is fairly good, fairly gross. I did write that down. Cockroach scene is disgusting in a lot of ways, and she gets her arms they're bent back. There is some very interesting practical effects and kill scenes and sequences, dream sequences in this film that I do really enjoy, though.
oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Like I said, like and to mirror what you said earlier about like we get what we get, and this isn't like a complete rundown to like rip this apart or anything, but it's just pointing out that things like I do think there was a better thing that they could have done than dog piss. um I
Yeah.
can kind of see the idea for being like, okay, if we kill off Kincaid, like it can kind of show how strong Freddy's going to be this time round. But it didn't really have that effect. He just died, and you were kind of like, huh, okay, weird.
Yeah. Cool. Let's just get to the film, I guess. Like, Freddy's back. I always remember that though. Freddy's back. And he like screams from the graveyard, but it goes like out, like they shoot out, and it keeps getting further and further out, and it's like outside in some world, junkyard world. It's just some of it's cool, some of it's weird.
But again, like, look, it's like all these we get treated to, and this is probably the thing that I remember about Nightmare on Elm Street movies more than anything is like little snippets or a
Yeah.
particular scene. You know, like the idea of him at the beach with the sunglasses and shit, or him in the medical robes, or
Oh,
him
100%. Yeah.
dressed up as a fucking chef or whatever it is in a
Yeah, and
tuxedo.
this face makeup it gets progressively worse throughout the series, but this one is not terrible.
Yeah, this one
I
isn't
don't
bad.
mind it. It's a little grotesque. It could have been more wet looking. I think as a like a burn thing, but I guess if your face eventually did heal, but it's there. I not just because just because I'm a little critical about the things that way they could have been done, doesn't mean I don't love these movies and spent my childhood watching them over and over and over again because I was obsessed with
Oh,
Freddy Krueger.
likewise, likewise. Do you want to know what the movie was called in Japan?
Yeah, tell me.
I was waiting for a Japanese
I was
impression
waiting
there,
for you to tell me what what the
so you could say it.
spell. Yeah.
Um, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4: The Last Counterattack.
The last counterattack. They couldn't even say
I love.
it's in English.
Nobody will be able to see this on even on the video aspect there, but when Tom done that little impression, he bowed his head at the same time.
Yeah, it is.
Oh
Yeah,
god, that
man.
was the best.
It's just a joke. Everybody, calm down. On my show, we are super uncensored and say what we want because that's what I want to do with my show is being able to joke about things, right? And like kid, and everyone needs to calm down about like being offended by everything. And my buddy at work makes the point where we have like an East Indian kid that is doing a co-op thing to be a machinist, and we joke with him all the time about stuff and like, oh, we were trying to get him to tell us if there's any like racist jokes that they make about white people or what they think is weird about our culture. And he says that then he was nicest kid in the world, like good, but he understands jokes, right? So it's like
Yeah,
people get too offended nowadays. And my buddy was like, it's usually white people. They're the most people are like, that's racist. That's not funny. That's offensive. It's never usually cultural, like black, sometimes black people, but like more or less, it is those like kind of Karens,
yeah, yeah.
right?
The
Like
do-gooders.
yeah, and we made jokes to him, and I'm always like, ah, maybe I'm like saying shit like too far, but he like laughs, and I was like, what do you think is weird about our culture? I was like, you can be honest, like I don't care if you think we're all like ingrates or like idiots or some ignorant just white people. And he's like, he said that just we put cheese on everything, and that that's weird to him from being from like obviously India, and then that we don't know our neighbors is weird. And I was like, that like you're not very. He's like, I've been lived here for like a year or two and don't know my neighbors. He's like, that's weird to me. And I was like, that's
Yeah,
because people in Canada are crazy, and you don't want to make friends with the wrong type of person in this country because there's some not good people. You know, and I sometimes like I like to be left alone. I want to be in the middle of the country, in the middle of nowhere, which I
yeah.
kind of
Just
am, but I can
yeah,
even go further out. Um, and it's always that, right? Like just like quickly, my buddy Aaron, he's like closing the thing, this like clamp or whatever, and he's like it's like he always does it to make sure the part doesn't move or whatever, right? And the kid's like, oh, you're so strong. Like he's like, how do you get so strong? What do you eat? And this kid's a short little like Indian kid. And he's like, I eat little Indian boys. And he's like, and my buddy's like, and he laughed because he understood I was fucking kidding. And I
yeah,
see that's the people that we've talked about this before on the show is like that. Just stop getting offended by things. Most people do not hold that much hatred in their heart and actually are being malicious in the ways when they just joke about things. So
yeah.
that's why our culture is going downhill. Like Jesus.
It's just a joke.
I know. That's why I love the '80s films because they add like stupid stuff in, and then people are like, I shouldn't have done that, and that's all it is. Oh, I shouldn't have done. I
Yeah.
shouldn't have said that. It's like cool. Okay, you admit that you were like wrong and the times were different. It's like oh, it's
And
not
whatever anyway,
erase history because
most
it
of the stuff
offends you.
is funny anyway, so it's not
I
that
know.
big of a deal. Like
Dude, what do you think about the pizza scene? Fun.
yeah,
Like there's
yeah.
there is some fun scenes in this fucking movie for sure. Like that shit is so fun when he's like picking the meatball and he like stabs it into the one kid's head and then like licks it or whatever. Like there's some really cool scenes when it comes to the kills in this film. Like the cockroach scene is gross and when she's like walking down and she like morphs and her like
That
arms
one's
break.
disgusting. That one's
Yeah,
disgusting for me.
and I remember like almost even now, like I was like drinking or something. Like, oh, when we did the commentaries, I was having a drink. I smoked a little weed, and then seeing her like arms break back and then become the cockroach, and then he like squishes her in the cockroach hotel, and his eye kind of peers in. That's great. That's like a fun scene,
Yeah, I found that like revolting. Though the effects in this are still like pretty good to be fair.
and that's what a
Especially
lot of
for like
special effects artists say too. Is that
late
it's
late eighties. Like that's another thing that's like I think massively like underappreciated is like all these like 70s, 80s. Like we were talking before about I mentioned Faces of Death. Same thing.
yeah
Like some of the shit like that they came out and said like was there's a monkey brain scene, and I was listening to one of the special effects guys talk about how they made that, and I was like, that is so wild. And I watched the scene 2 or 3 times after hearing how he done it, and I'm looking
yeah
at this thing going, there's no way. I was like, there's no fucking way that that's cauliflower. And then they've
yeah
like painted it and like put some like weird latexy stuff around it to make it look like membrane. It looks like a motherfucking brain, which is just
yeah,
wild.
which
Like,
is
and I think
cool, and that
it's
and
underappreciated.
And that's why the special effects are especially like that got to work on a Freddy Krueger movie and stuff like that, like or even some of these different movies throughout the '80s, but specifically Nightmare on Elm Street is that they could like you could push the boundaries. Especially, I heard that Rainey Harlan was pushing the boundaries on certain effects that he wanted done, like when I think Alice is the main character. Am I right? Where she like jumps into the screen, like it's like
Yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah.
movie, and she like jumps, and he's like that was hard to do, where you had to like get her body to shift into the screen. Also, the pizza scene's pretty fun, where they had like all these actors like in this like big made pizza. They had like they brought Domino's in, and then like grafted it or something like that, like how they try to make it look exactly like a real pizza. Like there's some cool things, and as a effects artist it would have been interesting to do that. I've mentioned before I grew up and I was babysat by this is what introduced me more to horror to two specific people. I from out west. I think I told you this story where my mom's friend came to stay for like a summer, and I was like 9 or 10 or whatever. He was kind of like this chubby, lazy kid, but like loved movies. He showed me The Crow for the first time. Movies like that. Had a big collection of horror movies. He was gonna show me I Spit on Your Grave, and then he thought that was inappropriate for being 10. But he's the one that I burnt mac and cheese because he told me I was like I'm hungry, and he's like just make some fucking mac and cheese. I didn't really know how, and then I burnt it, and then he told me to sleep with one eye open, and it scared me. I was like, thank you. But then also I had this other babysitter that she was babysitting me for a long time. And when she got this boyfriend, Les, he was super chill, loved horror movies. And he had ended up having a back problem where he fell off stands at like a stadium kind of thing, which is kind of sad. But he was going to school for doing special effects and it was cool because like and that he was telling me at a young age that he was doing this stuff, showing me like certain horror movies, nothing too crazy, but stuff that he knew that I would enjoy because I was a horror fan, even as a young kid. And I was like, that would be fun to like, especially even in the early 2000s and stuff like that. You could still do a lot of practical effects.
Yeah, it would, and like to see how passionate all them guys are, even now, like some of the
Yeah,
guys who are still living, the odd time you see them get interviewed for a podcast or they get interviewed for maybe special features on a re-release or something, and just to see how passionately they even still
oh
talk
yeah,
about it now, like 40 years later or whatever it is fucking is kind of wild. So I suppose then to close off number 4. How
Yeah.
many pepperonis out of 5 would you give it?
I was gonna say it's soul food. Get it?
Oh, nice.
I do want to mention one thing. It is the scene with because I'm trying to think of all the different scenes throughout the movie, but the scene with the chest is cool, and I heard that was pretty hard to pull off.
Very
And with the
iconic
big
scene.
chest, yeah, very iconic scene. But bring up the images with the big chest, where the little Asian lady got crushed because they didn't have it stringed up properly or something like that, and it wasn't. Which is kind of crazy. And they had this little Asian lady on the top, like helping puppet this big, huge Freddy chest. And this is where they would have they had all these naked women that were painted up and stuff like that, and dudes, and they would have them and you could hear them in the documentary, but probably like when you're on the set, and he's like, push your chest, more chest, like just whining to those titties to be pressed up against the chest, and then it like all collapsed and fell on the little Asian lady.
Which is a bit. I didn't know that. I was trying to find an image here of.
You had it up on screen on one of the other like collages that you have. Yeah, see right there, the little
Oh
Asian
yeah,
lady with
sorry.
the
Yeah, yeah,
chef
yeah.
apron.
Sorry.
She was on top where like the neck is, and then it like fell down. She like fell into it, and it's just like not it's just like it would have been. I saw the scene. It looked like a little chaotic, and then you're like, oh fuck, like I might have killed somebody, you know.
I
But
wonder
that scene's
do
fun.
things like that
It looks pretty
survive.
good. The huge chess piece
Yeah.
thing.
Imagine how cool that'd be.
I would love that in my house, dude.
Yeah.
I would just sit in it all the time. I just do mushrooms and like push my face through it. And be
Imagine
like, Chelsea,
having that
look.
shit though in like the background for your podcast.
I know. And you just have your friend stand in it and like press his face into it every once in a while.
Press his dick through the
Stupid.
thing.
Yeah. I'm like, whoa, what was that thing? I just want that scene is I just wanted because that was something I took from like watching the doc. It's like, that's a cool practical effect, something that they took time to build. And obviously things go wrong all the time. And eventually it wouldn't be a bad idea to discuss an episode on some of the things that went on in certain movies that went wrong, you know? So let's get into my favorite movie out of the franchise.
What would you give?
Oh,
So before we move on from number
how many
4, how many
how many
pepperonis?
how many pepperonis out of 10?
Yeah, let's go for out of 10.
Um Honestly, for this one, I'll give it a 7.5 pepperonis.
I was gonna say 6.5. So that's probably I think that's like the
Yeah,
ballpark people should probably expect. Anywhere from probably like
a
a 6
six.
to a 7.5 or an 8.
Yeah, you could say a 5, but really, for what it is, this movie is fun. It's entertaining. There's some really fun practical effects. The actors are not terrible. Like the stupid karate scene is bogus, but like there is there's other good kills. There's some fun stuff within this film that I really enjoyed, and this is one of the ones that I really did like. Like I really do enjoy the first four are probably my favorite, and when we get to 6, I really enjoy that one too. 5 is lacking. Um, 2 is not the greatest compared to how like we talked about in the last deep dive. It's like it's the second one, and you guys fucking missed the ballpark like
Yeah,
fucking
honestly, for me,
crazy.
like, uh, bar a couple of scenes, like I don't care for number 2 at all.
No, I mean neither. I'm not a big fan. The makeup was okay, but it's just disappointing. Um, yeah.
So I guess then let's jump into. Oh no.
Redirect notice. It's
Um,
just fucking
A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, um, was released in 1989. It is an American gothic slasher film directed by Stephen Hopkins and written by Leslie Bohem. It is the fifth
nice.
installment in the franchise and stars Lisa Wilcox and Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. Alice, having survived the previous installment in the Nightmare series, finds the deadly dreams of Freddy Krueger starting once again. This time, the taunting murderer is striking through the sleeping mind of Alice's unborn child. His intention is to be born again into the real world. And the only one who can stop Freddy is his dead mother. But can Alice free her spirit in time to save her own son?
In other words, we didn't know what the fuck we wanted to do for the fifth one, so we just threw a bunch of shit together and hoped that it turned out well.
Because that sounds like ass to me.
Before we dive into this one, we'll mention quickly after number 4, they did do Freddy's Nightmares, and then they were just pushing the boundaries on what they could do on late night television when it comes to a horror show. It didn't last that long. For the Instagram and maybe the YouTube, I'm gonna put up the intro to Freddy's Nightmares because it's
Mm-hmm.
short, and then maybe the scene where it's only like 3 minutes. The scene where they kind of, which was fun. I guess people like the first 3 episodes, and the first one they showed like how Freddy got killed
Yeah,
in a very cheaply television way. But I'll post on the Instagram, and we'll both be tagged in it and stuff like that, and you guys can check it out because it's interesting. I remember watching when I was a kid, but I kind of wish I could find it. I thought it was gonna be on the DVD version. It's not. And it's only a couple of scenes are on YouTube.
I actually think I have the DVD of Freddy's Nightmares.
Really?
Yeah, I think at one point I bought like some lady was like selling her son's collection. He moved away or something, and I bought a whole like big cardboard box full of movies for like €20.
Do you have an external DVD drive, or do you have one on your computer?
I have an external one.
Yo, we should watch that for a Patreon
That'd be cool.
thing.
Yeah, we could do that.
Like, and let's get kind of drunk. Like,
Yeah,
just
that'll be
like,
fun. I haven't actually. I
we
don't think I've seen all of them in a long time.
we need to do that. That's sick. I am actually really excited. So keep an eye out for that. And this is why we say, like, especially as the show grows bigger and bigger all the time, the best way to support us, where we can put more money into different content, is by supporting Patreon, right? So that's fucking fun. We have to do that at some point because, like, and that's why I enjoy doing some of the stuff for Patreon people, because we go to super uncensored and we get off topic. And for the Nightmare on Elm Street 6, when we get to that, the commentary on Patreon, we were like looking at toys at the ending of like obscure, which is going to be a whole episode on its own for the main show, but like weird off-brand toys and stuff like that. And it's just like, it's a fun time. So that's why, support.
100%.
This is where his mask gets his mask like Freddy's makeup gets more and more lazy, and he looks like a fat, I don't know, it's just like it's a weird.
Yeah, it's kind of like puffy. His like cheeks and stuff are like puffy.
Yeah,
It's weird, and his ears look more like cauliflower ears. Um,
yeah.
so this movie was released on August 11th, 1989, and grossed 22.1 million on a budget of 8 million. A steep decline in box office receipts from Dream Warrior and Dream Master, while still a box office success and the highest grossing slasher film of 1989, it received mostly negative reviews from critics
Yeah,
and
of course.
fans alike.
Yep.
I kind of
Chelsea
don't
left,
blame them
and
in a way.
if you hear my dog barking, it's because my girlfriend just left, and he's not shutting the fuck up. What the fuck is that shit?
Which one?
The fucking pregnant Freddy. That is
That's
fucking
so
stupid.
good. And I love that it says
Um,
Freddy delivers number 5.
it's so weird. This one does give me a lot of memories, though, of being a kid. Not that picture, because men can't get pregnant. Congratulations, it's a nightmare. And if people are not watching, it's like Freddy's like, it's his hat's tip, so you can't see his face, and he's like looks like he's purposely pushing out his gut. So it looks like his back is in the shape of like a U. It's
Yeah,
weird.
yeah.
That's a weird. What
I
is that from? Like,
I always remember the middle image
me too.
with that stroller or whatever you
Yeah.
call it. And I remember I used to have like I have like really vivid memories of like seeing that artwork all the time and kind of being like not if I don't know, it's hard, like it was like weird. I'd look at Freddy and be like not that afraid, and then I'd look at that stroller thing and be like it was kind of like freaking me out.
Yeah. I'll say that this one. Okay, I have a story about this one. So, like the image of the back of the VHS brings me back a lot of
Mhm.
memories. Because I started collecting horror movies very young until my mom thought they were damaging my brain, so she took them away from me. But I had probably about like I don't know, like 20 movies. By the time I was like 10, 11, right? 11 or 12 or something like that. Actually, probably like 10 or 11. Because she took them away when I was like 10. I was like, I think this is damaging you. And I'm like, it's making me better, mom. I constantly dream about blood and guts and gore. Just
Look at
kidding.
you now.
I know. I'm talking about it on a podcast.
Fuck
So
you,
like,
mom. Look at me now.
yeah.
I can do what I
Look,
want.
look at me now. I literally talk about it all day long. It's like nothing but horrific things.
So that didn't
Um,
work, taking the tapes off
no,
you.
no, I only made sometimes parents when you do that, it makes your kids worse because they want to rebel even more.
Well, that's
So
yeah, that's
sometimes,
how I felt because I remember at one point I was getting a little bit of pushback from certain members of family about like my maybe ever growing obsession with like horror and stuff like that.
yeah,
And like I don't get me wrong, right? I used to be shit scared of a lot of this stuff, but at the same time I had this like massive interest and intrigue about like no, I have to see like the next thing and the next thing. And then eventually it just got to the point where I think like everybody just kind of leaned into it a bit. Not to say that they promoted it, but it was like, yeah, okay, you know, watch those movies, whatever, but I don't want to hear you up all night and like pissing your pants and like pissing in the bed and whatever.
yeah. If you watch those movies, I don't want you crawling into bed with mommy because you're scared.
Yeah, yeah. So that
I
was
don't know
like,
who
you know,
don't sound like that. But so I like that there's one poster, it's like roll over Beethoven. It's Freddy's fifth. That's fucking stupid too. Very dumb because this movie is dumb, but I just want to say that image. So I think I had this one on DVD, and this is like one of the like first actual Nightmare on Elm Street movies I had, or not DVD, I mean VHS, other than like the first one. So that image is stuck in my mind because I remember seeing it at the store. Yeah, that kid's face always freaked me out. So I remember seeing it at the store that was going out of business, Flicks. And me and my buddy used to go there all the time because they would have the obscure, like most movie stores just had the new thing, like the movies from 1999 or 2000s and stuff that was being released, right? Like late 90s. And then so there was stores that would carry like older horror movies, and there'd be a horror movie section. They'd all be on the wall in their VHS cases, and it's like this is like big memories to me. And this shitty store, but it smelled like popcorn and stuff like that. It was kind of
yeah,
cool. You
yeah,
could like
yeah.
take popcorn for free, whatever. And like, so I remember seeing this one. They were going out of business, and then the guy was just like they were selling them for like nothing. So I think I was like 3 or 4, probably $2-3 for me getting the VHS, and he didn't care really that we were kids. I think he was just like whatever. Like I want to get rid of this shit, so take this movie. And this is one where I remember seeing the back and it being like, oh, gross. This looks scary, and being like so fascinated with like it looks because the back looks gross. For the people
Yeah,
that can't
yeah.
see, it's the scene of the little boy turning into Freddy, but it looks like wet and gross. And then the chick being pulled from the fridge with her huge, gaped open chipmunk cheeks. And I honestly, this is a movie that, as much as it is terrible, it gives me a lot of good memories with
Same.
why I like this stuff.
Same. And
You
like
know?
I think what you just said, that story you just told, I would imagine that anybody that listens to this that's interested in this stuff could probably come up with maybe a similar story or like feel that feeling you're talking about.
Yeah,
And I mean, this is one thing I think we can't take away from any of these older movies we talk about or these franchises where, you know, they've had like a kind of a roller coaster where it's like we get a
yeah,
decent movie, then it's like you get a terrible idea, then you get something that's like mediocre ish, then something might be good and it's like bad. And one thing that they were always really good at back then, I find, was being able to draw you in with the fucking artwork.
oh, the VHS, yeah.
Yeah,
And just like getting the perfect scenes that would make you be like, wow, this looks crazy. And it is, I don't know, I feel like it's different now. And I know there's a lot of younger horror fans out there, but I don't think I understand what it was like being in the 80s at the time when these things were being released. But as horror became more and more popular, we were both of the age when these older movies were still getting more popular. So it's like the middle of the 90s, late 90s.
yeah,
horror was taking off. This was already established. There was franchise established, and people were just going back and watching those older movies. And it was just different. Everybody, you'll never understand VHSs. Like that was just a big thing. And going to a store and seeing the cover, and you never would see the trailer. You didn't have YouTube or any of these things to look up the trailer and find out what it looks like unless you saw it on television, which they wouldn't show a lot of these trailers unless you were in the movie theater. Before they had car commercials before your fucking movie, they would just show you like 5, 6 previews of other horror movies because you're 18. They knew you were 18, right? It's like you could go see it, and they could show some of these, horror, obviously rated R trailers that could show a little more and stuff. And I just don't think kids understand how like, and it was macabre and almost
And,
it was taboo.
and
You weren't
like
allowed to do it.
how invested that you would be. Like I remember renting. We've talked about this lots of times where, you might rent or buy a movie like that and you're so invested because you didn't have 50,000 different streaming platforms and everything was
Yes.
instant and like free movies on YouTube and all. The internet basically didn't exist, and
Yeah.
this was your only form of being able to like
I
see
feel
the
like too
shit.
many options have destroyed
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
Convenient. They selling they you. This is just. I'm only gonna say this, but I'm not gonna get into my theories on stuff. But like people will sell their freedom for convenience, and the '90s was just '80s, '90s was just a different time. And yeah, you were invested. I remember getting this movie, already seeing the other ones, watching probably the first Nightmare on Elm Street over and over and over again, way more than I watched the other ones because I actually thought it was scary. And I like loved Freddy Krueger, and I think it's only like VHS that I had. And then when I got this one, and I think I saw all the other ones and enjoyed them for what they were, and then I watched this one, and I was like, "What?" Like it just did. Like I just
Hmm.
wasn't impressed by it. The food scene, what we'll get into, always stuck with me. There's scenes that stuck with me because I watched it when I was very young, but a big part of me watching this even at that time was like, what? Why did they go this direction? What? It doesn't even like it's so weird.
The taglines for this one as well actually match how terrible some of the artwork is and just the whole idea. So
Friday
it's
delivers number 5 at cinemas May 8th or 11th. It's
yeah,
so
like
so
they're like that's kind of so we have roll over Beethoven. It's Freddy's Fifth, which obviously we can see there on some of the artwork.
so stupid.
Then we have It's a Boy. There's another one.
It's a boy. Yeah.
Freddy Delivers.
Yeah, it's funny.
Now Freddy's a daddy. He's killing for two.
That is just so dumb. I do actually because I smoked a joint for everyone wondering why my brain went some weird way, but uh, I do think that shit's pretty funny though.
Uh, Evil has spawned, and then just the last one is just Freddy has a son.
That's dumb.
That's it.
I,
That was the
I
tagline.
honestly, the only one I kind of like is the one you said where I thought that was kind of funny. But roll over Beethoven, it's Freddy's Fifth. Why not? They already like made him look like some weird cartoon character in the horror slasher franchise, so might as well make it even stupider, I guess. So
Yeah, I
strange.
mean, it's
I never liked the kid thing, and it's funny. For a long time, I said that the two movies I didn't like, and I changed my mind later on in life, but at least about one of them. Two movies I didn't enjoy. I remember as a kid was Nightmare on Elm Street because I love the like slasher films, but Nightmare on Elm Street 5 and Friday the 13th 5 because I remember watching it. Me and my buddy that Austin could have mentioned before, where he's like the one I grew up with, always watch horror movies with. We got Friday or Friday the 13th, the fifth one, and then at the ending, when he dies, it's not Jason. And I remember us being like, what the fuck? It's so stupid and being all disappointed about it. And then I saw Jason Goes to Hell, and that I fucking hate that movie. I know people like it, but destroyed it. I was like, fuck this movie. But then this movie, when I watched it, I got it, and I've watched it for the first time, and I was like, the fifth one also sucks of this because it's just like the kid thing is just so weird,
I know,
like this
yeah,
horror like villain from the hell dreamscape kind of reality is able to have a kid. Like it's weird.
yeah. It doesn't really like even now, all these years later, I'm like, huh.
Still stupid. There's some very good scenes in this though. I will say there's a couple scenes that are very fun.
Do you want to talk about some of your favorites?
Yeah, the motorcycle one is when we watched the commentary, and did the commentary and watched the movie, I really did enjoy the motorcycle scene. And it's so quick where she's just kind of in the diner with Freddie and then she kind of walks out. What's her name? Alice and with her boyfriend, and they get in the car, and then the guy's on the motorcycle, or he's on the motorcycle and has to like leave. And then it's pretty cool because there's scenes they cut from this, and then you can see it on the documentary where like what pierced into his like thigh and stuff like that, but they kept being like, no, too much, cut this, no, too much. And they added so much, all the money that they put into some of these effects, and then it doesn't get shown in the movie, and they don't even have an uncut version for like the DVD or a special feature thing, which I don't know if they were thinking about that at the time, but it would have been cool to see all the scenes that were cut. Because that's cool. And it becomes the
Yeah.
motorcycle. And he's
Yeah,
like,
that's
let's ride, bitch, or whatever he says. Something stupid like that.
it is, but that like again, there it's another thing, right? For as much as I say I don't like this movie, there is like I can pick several parts of it where I was like, you know what, I've like such vivid memories of watching that and being like, that was so funny, or that was so cool, or Freddy's so cool, I don't care.
Yeah,
Um,
I know. I'm like, I hated the kid thing, and the ending always creeped me out, and I thought it was just weird. It didn't make sense, but like I said, that feeding scene, dude, it has stuck with
you know
me.
what, right? When you look on screen right now and just look at like, and this is only just a very, very small snapshot of like a couple of different scenes and parts of the movie. But
Yeah,
like, if I looked at that with no context and you told me these are all the same movie, I'd be like, what?
yeah, yeah, I
Is
know.
that even like possible?
That little boy, I guess he had some when he was doing the film, he had his like dad die, so it like took him out of him having to like deal with that and stuff. And then you like go to this set of like there's some weird child molester, but
Yeah,
they
it's a
don't
bit
talk about
fucking.
it.
It's a bit weird.
There,
I didn't know actually when you were talking about the motorcycle scene until I
yeah,
started doing some research about this. I don't know how people pronounce this because it's pronounced differently in different parts of the world. H.R. Geiger.
H.R.
Uh,
Geiger, yeah,
um, Obviously, for people that don't know, he was a really famous Swiss painter. He was probably most well known for his work on Alien, and all that freaky shit. I actually have a book that I got for Christmas of his, this big thick book full of his artwork and explaining like all the inspirations and stuff. And basically his style is I don't know, I guess like a mixture of human anatomy with machines.
yeah, I know what
And
you're talking about.
um, the Dream Child, apparently like that scene was inspired by him, the special effects team. There's a couple of different interviews on YouTube and places where they said that Dan's motorcycle death was basically completely inspired by HR's work.
See, that's cool. And like, there's scenes about this film I did enjoy. I remember, like, I always will never forget me thinking it's kind of weird, like when I watched it as a kid. But as a young age, watching the food scene and having to like watch her stomach this food, and their cheeks grow bigger and bigger, and it looks kind of grotesque, and it's like food drop all over the place. And then supposedly there's a scene where they're like he was feeding her herself, like he cut open her stomach and then was feeding her insides, and they had to cut that, and it's kind of disappointing. But I was thinking about how the special effects dudes, it's not their fault at the end of the day if the movie has a shitty script or is not edited well, because they're only trying to give the best effects that they can with the budget. So shout out to those dudes.
Yeah, you know what? They're the real heroes in a lot of these things.
Yeah, like I know talked about when we did the commentary. What do you think of the comic book scene with fucking Super Freddy?
Do you know what, right? When I Now it's maybe a little bit different because I've watched it again, several times and done research on it for this. Um,
Yeah,
but I feel like, a couple of years back and, even, 19, 20, 21, if you had have asked me about this movie, I don't
mm.
have any memories of Super Freddy. Like I don't
Really?
remember. Yeah, like I would always remember the motorcycle scene, but I think the thing that took over the entire movie for me was that feeding scene. I always remembered that, and I had such vivid memories of Freddy with that fucking tuxedo shirt thing and the little bow tie or
It's funny
whatever.
how we both that both got to us, and it's funny. It's just like the ties, his colors. Um,
And like I don't know, I have such vivid memories and I don't ever remember Super Freddy, but it's strange then because I had a chance to interview the guy who played Super Freddy,
yeah,
Michael Bailey Smith. He's played like shit tons of creatures and characters. He was in The Hills Have Eyes 1 and 2 remake. He's
that's
been
cool.
in the dude has been in literally everything. He's been in Men in Black. He's been in John Claude Van Damme movies. John Claude Van Damme had a really really good prison movie in 2003, I think it was, called In Hell, and he played like the big Russian scary dude.
That's cool. I should check that out.
But hearing him talk about this was like he had no intentions of ever being an actor or being anything. This was his first role. Basically, he was a professional bodybuilder, and he brought his friend to audition for a part. I don't think it was for this movie, it was for something else, and they just happened to be cast in this movie in the same place, or in another part of the theater or whatever.
Yeah.
And somebody just happened to see him or something, or like, oh hey, are you here for like, you know, casting or whatever? He's like, no, I'm just here waiting for a buddy. And they're like, look, we're looking for a big guy, muscly, to shoot a scene for a horror movie and whatever. And they just kind of brought him in, and the next thing he knew, he was getting done up in Freddy makeup, and he was Super Freddy.
See, and that's cool. It's a fun scene. I do remember like the comic book scene, but I feel like I remember more of like the game scenes or whatever from the other ones. But I agree that it's like it wasn't as stuck in my memory as the feeding scene because that shit is like just grotesque looking. Um, but I do remember him like the kid becoming a comic book character. And I guess that actor, yeah, he plays Mark Gray, Joel Seeley. He didn't even know he was dead. He like came on set and they were filming the scene of his like funeral or whatever of him dead, and and he was like they didn't even know he killed him off because they just used a cartoon version of him, which there's scenes that they always have to cut stuff, so some things can be gory and then some things they have to like dull back a little, I guess, because of the ratings and stuff. But how he just chops him up into like paper is like cool. I think like I do kind of like it, but at the same time, it could have been a gorier like kind of comic book scene.
Yeah, like again, there's moments of brilliance throughout, and some of it worked. Like we keep mentioning the feeding scene, I feel like that done exactly what they probably envisioned it doing. But there was
Yeah.
lots of other little things there that I feel like, again, love the motorcycle scene, but I do feel like what you said. I wish they had have left in some of those extra little cuts.
Well,
Um,
it's just muddied script too, and like not having a well hashed out idea. You know?
yeah, and like I think, like you're talking about the comic book scene. I think even maybe the idea of the kid, Super Freddy, all that stuff, maybe if just given a little bit more time to really like craft it, it may
Yeah.
have been better.
Transitioned well.
Yeah.
Speaking of the guy that plays Super Freddy, you remember when we did the commentary and I was like, "What the fuck is with this weird ass blue scene in the beginning? Like this sexy scene
Mm-hmm.
that's just like bodies." I guess that's him. And I saw on the doc that he was
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. You're right. Yeah, yeah.
he's like, "Oh, he's like, this is Hollywood. All right, I'll stick around, kind of thing." And I
He's a
said that in the
really cool guy,
commentary.
actually.
He sounds pretty chill. And like, that scene in the beginning, I was like, what? Why are they having this at the beginning of a fucking Nightmare on Elm Street film? Like this weird sensual, like blue, like sexy. Like it's just like kind of just to show that the Alice had sex. Like you wouldn't even have to add that. It was just weird,
Yeah, it's
very
again
weird.
like really random. If you were to just show clips of that movie one after another, but not tell the person that they were from the same film, you'd be like, "There's no way. How would anybody be able to edit this together?"
Yeah. And after four, they like cut out all the titties. Like five doesn't have titties, I don't think. Or does it? Maybe it does. Oh no, I don't think it does. And then six definitely I don't think does. So cutting all the good shit,
Yeah, no,
man.
I don't think so. I don't think
Because
so.
they're like trying to keep that 18A rating, but not push it, I guess. Do you want to talk about your favorite scene, the birthing scene?
Mm, mm.
when he crawls out of the vagina, and it's just like, and he's that weird gremlin, like sperm creature thing.
I just
Remember we watched we were watching the
yeah,
movie
it's
together. I
just
was like,
like
"What the fuck?
I
Why
had
did you
kind of
guys
like
do that?"
forgotten about that
Me too.
to a degree.
Can you bring up an image while we talk about this of
Yeah,
baby Freddy? It's like it was like, ah, this will be fucking. Even in them thinking about, oh, we'll have him crawl out of the vagina. He'll be like this weird, grotesque creature. Even writing that down sounds like it's gonna be stupid. You know what I mean? Like it just,
yeah.
and
Like
then when they
in
start
what
making the
world was
little
that like
head, and
cool?
it would have been more comical. That is so dumb. And
Like
that's not even
what?
like him bloodied up and stuff. Why would
Yeah,
they
and
do
that's I'm
that?
trying to find one where it's
I don't get it. It's just so weird. No, but honestly, if someone, I would like one of those. If there was somehow like a little statue of it, I would fucking.
I feel like there is, to be honest with you. I think I might have seen those on like Etsy or eBay or somewhere.
Oh, that's so funny. I guess
Those
that'd be
guys
kind of
that
fun
have
to
like the
have.
mold of them. Let me see.
It's
I,
just,
I'm
I don't
trying to
know. It's
find
just
one of
these
them.
things in this movie where I, even as a kid, was like, this is so stupid. Why did they do this? Like, and he's like comes out like
Oh,
makes
it's
he's
the
making weird
worst,
ass
man.
sounds and shit.
It's the
Yeah,
worst.
like this is. He's like crawls back into his clothing. Freddy, and then this is like it's so stupid.
It's like,
So this movie is
do you know
fucking
what? Right,
horrible, but great at the
this
same
is on
time.
par for me with. So, Freddy versus Jason is one of my favorite fucking movies.
Oh
Right,
yeah,
I swear to God, right, I love Freddy versus
me
Jason
too.
so much. Like, there is very little
But
bad stuff I have to say about that. However, there is one part of that movie that, and I don't completely hate it or anything, but I'm just like, why is this even a thing? The fucking scene where the stoner dude is smoking in the hospital or whatever, and that weird Freddy fucking slug thing comes out.
oh, that's funny.
Just
No, I thought you were gonna say, but I
oh,
was like,
about
is the
fucking Jason as the kid.
Jason on the fucking ground just like
He
huddling and
does actually kind of
shaking?
look like that though.
Yeah, I know. So I'm like, hey, that's not that bad because considering if you think about the original, I get why they did that to show Jason in his vulnerable state or whatever. But yeah, that slug thing is weird, and that rip off of Jason Mewes is like it's 100% what it is. It's weird, man. I don't know why they chose to even spend
I
money
know,
on
yeah.
making that shit. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Freddy, it shows him being birthed by from his mother, that then turns into a nun to like save his soul.
But it's
It
just not even
makes
like
no
it's not
fucking
even cool
sense.
though. That's the thing. It's just not cool.
I could write a better script in fucking 2 days than this. And then someone's like, "Well, do it then." It's like, "Well, pay me money. Maybe I'll figure it out." Yeah, that scene. Oh, but that also creeped me out though. At the same
Dude,
time, the
I swear to
Freddy
God, that
didn't,
used to
but
freak me out
Freddy sticks his fucking claw, his like
in the
finger,
side of
knife
his
finger into
head.
his. Yeah, and Freddy versus Jason. That's gonna come too. So everyone understand that like if we did an entire deep dive of everything, like all together, the deep dives would have been like 10 hours long. It would have been like 4 or 5 hours each one. So we decided to break it up a bit, and then we're gonna do it in order though. So get ready, like I said, for even if it's next summer, the time we get to it, it might be early spring for our 13th deep dive, and then we'll be getting into everything else because these are this is my bread and butter, you could say. This is what I
Mm-hmm.
love about horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
There's many other movies I really do enjoy, but this specifically Freddy Krueger, Jason, the toys, the merchandise, the cool little websites, the art, all made me love horror movies. You
Likewise.
know,
Again,
that's
like
stupid. Like when he's the fucking oh my god, when he's in the comic book scene, he's like turns into like the destroyer or whatever is
so
stupid.
bad. It's so fucking bad. I so the director, Stephen Hopkins, I was looking at some stuff about him and like his experience on this whole thing. And like again, here we go. I yet again it's another one of those situations where um we've talked about this, I feel like, a million times with a million different movies, but it seems to be more and more prevalent as these nightmare movies go on. This seems to
Yeah.
happen more and more. Director Stephen Hopkins was given just 4 weeks to shoot and 4 weeks to fully edit the film. This meant that he had to shoot on one stage while the crew was dressing another, so they could shoot almost continually for up to 22 hours a day. After he made After he made it, the studio was so impressed that he was also given the task of directing Predator 2, which is strange considering this movie was released by New Line Cinema and Predator 2 was released by 20th Century Fox.
It is crazy, and this is what my problem is. And when they constantly bring this up on docs, and you find out the why these movies either could have been better or why they're so bad in that same kind of context, is like that. Man, they rush everything. Why do you
Mm-hmm.
need to make money that bad, man? Like really? Or do you want to spend more time developing something and make more money off of it? And you're trying to ride that wave of Freddy, but if people waited a year and a half, 2 years, it would have probably made more money because people are like, oh, well, I haven't seen a Freddy movie in a while. This is awesome, and they rushed it through like crazy. Like at least all of them, they did that. They did that with two, and I was like, I'm trying to think of one they didn't do that with, but they did it with all of them, where they're like trying to ride the wave, but yet you see how look at what happened with Scream. How many fucking years did it take? And then they made tons of money. So like,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Bob Shea seems like he's the issue. I know you created New Line Cinema. Is he dead or alive?
Alive, I think.
Really? He looked dead when he was on the fucking Never Sleep documentary. So, just kidding. But like, I'm not a huge fan of his, and I don't think we're ever gonna talk to him. So,
So
but like, I just think
this is
that
the thing, right? I actually would love to talk to him. I'm kind of
really,
fascinated by him in a way. Now, not like to say, oh, he's like one of my top guests or anything,
no,
but
no,
like he is somebody I would like to talk to. I find him kind of fascinating. I don't know. He's kind of a weird dude. I think because he talks
yeah,
about some stuff and like he seems super passionate and like I've heard other directors, and I think it might have actually been Stephen Hopkins who was doing like one of those like they screen the movie like 20 years later or whatever, and
yeah,
then they have like a Q&A with the director, and he's like, I just want to say a huge thank you to maybe it was Rennie Harlan, I'm not sure, it was one of those two. He was like, I want to say a huge thank you to Bob Shea. He basically changed my entire life. He gave me the life I have, um, because of the opportunity he gave me. And he was like, a lot of people give him shit and talk about how ignorant he is and how brash he is. And he was
yeah,
like, on the opening night when we showed that movie, before the numbers even came in for how well it was doing or anything to do with money, just from the reaction of the crowd in that theater, he was like, he actually called my mother and wanted to congratulate her and tell her how an amazing job she done raising me
yeah.
as a
That was in the
son and all
doc.
this shit. And I
And
was like,
there's some things I liked about Bob Shea,
which is kind
but
of
there's
weird,
some
like, because
things I
it's
don't.
such a weird dynamic thing, because it's like,
He
right, so
hated
you're
him
like,
at first.
yeah, I was like, you're this massive, like, dickhead who's, like, really brash and, like, ignorant and, like, you're right and everybody else is wrong.
Abrasive. He seems like
Yeah.
he's abrasive. Like
And
he's
then,
like you
like,
don't want to be
he's,
around him.
like, nice and he does this other stuff that, like, nobody ever really talks about. I'm like, what? Like, what is that about a person?
I know that has that like duality between like one minute you're an asshole and then you're like once you see
Yeah.
greatness in someone, I guess you finally. But you gotta push people, but you don't gotta be abrasive. And there's some things that like this. Because it's not he may be putting up the money and create New Line Cinema, but producers fucking, to be honest, and stuff like that, they stand there and they just put the money into it and then give really dumb opinions and it ruins certain films. We've seen this before. Not saying Bob Shea did that, but you see these people that like just sit in the sidelines, add their little critiques. It can ruin a movie. Where the people, the directors, the writers, people throwing this stuff together, the actors, special effects, all that stuff, set designers, costume work. That's the people that make the costumes. They're the people that fucking create the movie and make it what it is and what makes the movie lovable. Not the people putting up the money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
It's
get that
just,
sentiment. I think people don't really praise that as much as they should.
and it's weird, right? Because, obviously he has some sort of skill or talent, because like you couldn't
Yeah,
just, like, if you were a complete moron you couldn't just
yeah.
fall into that position. I mean, this guy
No,
has
no.
been behind, let's see, so we have Alone in the Dark, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Critters,
Yeah.
uh, Hairspray, let's see what
I'm not
else, The
shitting
Lord of
on
the
it
Rings,
completely. I'm just
Lord of the
saying that,
Rings,
like, yeah, Lord of the Rings is great.
Freddy
I'm just
versus
saying that
Jason,
he
like,
just made good choices.
Yeah, yeah. But like, I don't know that. I think that's the fascinating part for me. I'm like, I would love to get past maybe that like abrasive, like kind of shitbag personality
Yeah.
to see like what's really, or how does he really do business, or how does his mind really work. Is he able to switch his ego off at any point, like behind the scenes, and just won't say it?
Yeah, and maybe he thinks he needs to be like that. You know?
Yeah, like it's.
There-
I didn't know he actually left New Line. He no longer has anything to do with New Line because they got
oh, really?
yeah, they
Probably made a lot of money.
yeah, they got bought out. They sold to Time Warner
Yeah.
for I think a massive like
And I
multi
didn't mean to like
billions.
fully shit on him, but I'm just saying I do have a issue with some most like
Oh,
not
100%.
most, but like
Yeah, no,
some
100%.
producers they ruin the films.
Majority of
Speaking
them.
about Nightmare on Elm Street 5, I was trying. I always make the mistake of supposedly going on Firefox when we're doing this instead of Google because Google allows better screen sharing. But the image of the image where it's like the blue background and Freddy's like shushing and he's over the crib. That is definitely the one that I remember more than any other.
That
If I don't
background.
know if you can bring it up, yeah. If you just look at Nightmare Show 5, you'll find it, and he's like shh over the crib. I
Is it
feel
the
like
one
that's
behind
the
us right now?
oh yeah, that I was like, wow, yeah, that one. But it's like flipped, and you see like the lighting coming up at his chest, and it's just that's what makes me remember this movie. And I remember seeing that VHS cover and being like, "This looks dumb," but it was $2. You know, like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like it was
yep,
cheap as fuck.
yep.
So I was like, whatever. So they were like they had like no money. Again, they were running out of money during this filming of this movie. So they just fucking hung rags everywhere. I mean, that's great. Let's just like dye some fucking pieces of paper mache and fucking hang it up or like rags. And even the end scene, I even put like the fucking weird and bizarre nonsensical fucking ending. Where there's in this like church thing, and then they go to like so the weird stair sequence is kind of cool, I guess. And then it's just fucking weird, dude. And then you have like the water scene. I will say I kind of enjoyed of him like peeking his head out of the water is kind of fun. Um, but the end scene is like cringy, and the little boy turning into Freddy and then throwing up on Freddy, and that's how he like kind of kills. It's just so stupid. That little boy, I don't like what he looks like though. I'm sorry, not like. Sorry, that sounds bad. Not like,
You didn't think he was
not like
sexy enough?
not like normally. But like when he has the makeup on, he just like it looks weird. It does kind of make me feel uncomfortable, you know. But that actor never really grew up, You know
There's
what I
some of
mean?
your infamous rags.
Yeah, look at how many rags they just like threw up. Like, oh, this will look good. Why do people have a bunch of rags around? You know what I mean? It just makes no sense.
It
Um,
actually gets worse the more images I look, the more I'm like, oh yeah.
yeah, just tons of rags. And I remember saying that when we watched the commentary, or we did the commentary. But like, it's the little poor boy. It's just weird. He just ends up at the end of the film, and then he's in the rags, and then he turns to Freddy, and it throws up on him, and it's just like
Yeah, it is a bit strange. All right, I
that's
don't. It
really
doesn't
weird.
really
And,
like
and
make any
especially when we
sense.
watched it, because I haven't seen it in a long time. It's one I always avoid, even though like it's one of those ones I had on VHS, so I did watch it because I wasn't kind of supposed to.
Yeah, yeah.
It's stupid.
Um, do you have anything else to add before we
No,
move on?
should we just? There's a fun image. That's what I was trying to screen share of. It's Freddy's glove. It must have been a redone version of it because it looks like it's way better than a poster they would have done back then. But it's his hand out with his claws, and then like a little hand is grabbing his claws. I was like, that's kind of cool looking. But it's um try. I give this yeah, it's not. It's kind of cool.
Yeah,
I think
that's
it's
cool.
cool for what it
I like
is,
that.
like the art. Um,
How
out of
many? What are we going with for this one? How many placentas out of five?
I was gonna say something about like the little Freddy, the baby Freddy. How many squished baby Freddys? So the more you squish, the better it is. The more you squish, the worse it is. You know. So I would squish. I would squish 6 baby Freddys. So I gave it like a fucking 4, maybe even 7. Maybe I'd step on that last one a little bit and I'd just kick it so it's still kind of alive.
Yeah, I would probably go with 6. I think I would
Yeah.
go with
So like,
6 is
so
probably
you're a
safe.
4 out of 10 most likely.
Yeah,
Like it's 3, 4 out of 10.
there's some
There's
fun
iconic
scenes.
scenes.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
other than
But
that, as a total movie, it's pretty
yeah.
terrible.
Pretty ass, bro. All right, let's get into number 6 because I enjoy this one. Fuck anybody that doesn't like it. That's your opinion. My opinion is I enjoy it.
Okay, so number 6, Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, is a 1991 American slasher film and the 6th in the franchise. Obviously, it's a sequel to Dream Child and was originally intended to be the final installment of the series. Wes Craven's New Nightmare was released 3 years later, but takes place outside of the series canon. This was New Line Cinema's first 3D film release, which I'm sure we'll get into in a while.
Oh yeah, it was pretty bad.
It was the only, I think this was the only installment in the entire franchise that was directed by a female, with a screenplay by Michael DeLuca. It stars Lisa Zane, Breckin Meyer, Ricky Dean Logan, Leslie Dean, Robert Englund, obviously again as Freddy Krueger. There's also actually this. I thought this was kind of fun. There's several well-known actors that make cameo appearances, including Johnny Depp, who's
Saw that. Yeah.
obviously his
This is your
on-screen.
brain on drugs.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of a cool thing. Roseanne Barr, Tom Arnold, and Alice Cooper.
Roseanne Barr? Where's Roseanne Barr?
I'll pull the thing up in a second.
She's been saying some fucking real shit.
Iggy Pop sings the title song, which plays during the end credits over a montage of
Oh.
scenes from previous films.
That fucking that anorexic,
Creepy,
she-male
weird-looking,
fucking
like,
drug addict. The guy-
Saggy skin.
That guy, and how he dances, he's like always got his like arms tucked behind his back and doing this. Looks like a fucking
Freaky
robot.
looking.
He's weird, dude.
So, in part 6 of the Nightmare on Elm Street series, dream monster Freddy Krueger has finally killed all the children of his hometown and seeks to escape its confines to hunt fresh prey. To this end, he recruits the aid of a previously unmentioned daughter. However, she discovers the demonic origin of her father's powers and meets Dad head-on in a final showdown, originally presented in 3D.
Die, you little bitch.
Yeah. I don't know why. Okay, because this one is not the greatest, but this is one that I did enjoy. I remember the art in the background, like the poster always stuck out to me, and it was one did watch more than others, which like I don't mind how Anton's like if I watch it, how many times have I watched it, and that's how he kind of rates stuff. Like, have I went back to it like numerous times, kind of thing, right? So I like that idea of like, okay, well, the Nightmare on Elm Street movies I watched the most were like number 6, 3, and 4, and definitely the first one. So I don't know. His mask is fucking horrible in this one because Robert Englund was getting more and more sick of like wearing the makeup, so they made it more like a mask, and they like so he could actually like take it off and stuff. But oh, that's so funny. I remember that now. Yeah, that's cool. Roseanne Barr,
Brilliant.
she's interesting. I think she's seen some real disturbing, disgusting things in Hollywood, and as she's getting older and becoming like I don't give a shit. And she's been saying somewhere she was. We mean the fiance are watching her on Theo Vaughn's podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And she just says some crazy shit, but there's part of me that believes her because she's like been in Hollywood for so long, saw some crazy stuff. She was in Hollywood forever. Roseanne was a very successful fucking show, and she saw probably weird stuff. And now she's like, and then you numb yourself with drugs and alcohol and become an addict, and you deteriorate your health. And now that she's getting older, I think she just doesn't care anymore. Because it's pretty
true.
interesting to hear some of the shit that she's saying. And there's another show I saw her talking about some real shit, you could say. She's starting to, I think people are starting to expose what's going on. So it's kind of cool that she was in this. I do remember kind of that. I don't know. There's something about this one that I'm scrolling through images that I've always kind of like liked, but also it was kind of funny that I was older. So like me and my friends enjoyed it, and it's very dumb.
Oh
Like
yeah,
when we,
it's ridiculous. But again, like there's
yeah.
something about it that's good. And this was I wouldn't say a return to form, but it was interesting to see. This was released what 2 years after the last one, September 13th, 1991. And it so the previous one had grossed what 22 million. This one grossed 34.9 million on a budget of 9 million. But it was
That's
again
decent.
completely disregarded by critics and audiences alike.
I'm sure it was, and it's just it again could have been better. Um, but it's something stuck in my memory of one that I did enjoy because I was slowly being introduced to these movies and then looking for the other ones and really wanting to watch them. And I don't know, I remember me and my friend watching this and actually enjoying it for how stupid it was, but it is stupid. So in um the last time I watched this one, other than the commentary,
Mm-hmm.
was I got the DVD set from a thrift store. I saw like the DVD box set and I was like, that's sick. I already had it on Blu-ray, but I was like, that's cool. It has the 3D glasses. And then so I think I did a little mushroom or something like that, and we're just like chilling out. And I was like, awesome. So we start watching it, and then I'm waiting to put on the 3D glasses, and I'm waiting to put on the 3D glasses, and it isn't until the ending when they add the 3D scenes, at least in the which I wonder. I think it would have been like that in the theaters, but when they put on the 3D glasses, so do you. But it was kind of like I don't
Uh,
know. It's just for that ending of the weird like spermy snaky Freddy's and oh man, there's just the ending is weird.
and
But I
you
still
know
liked
what
it.
though? Like again, if we go back to say 1991, that probably worked a treat because you only had to shoot what a handful of scenes at the end
Yeah,
in
yeah.
3D. The whole
To make it
marketing was
3D.
yeah, the whole marketing was probably 3D, and then they just used that cool gimmick of like when she puts on her glasses, you put on your glasses.
Uh,
Dream
and they
team.
probably thought it was clever, but like look at Friday the 13th 3D. The whole movie was done in 3D.
Yeah, true, true.
So it's like, and this is like later on. It's just like I still really do enjoy this movie, like, but it's so stupid. We'll get like I don't know. We can kind of go back and forth through our thoughts of the film, but like the ending, we like the fucking like the laughing weird snake creatures are on the wall. There's some weird stuff in this one though, but hey, probably got really stoned as a kid, watched this and was like, haha, this is so good.
And right, so there's scenes like that, and then in contrast to that, you can see underneath where those like weird snake things are, the image
Yeah.
of what's his name? That character's
Uh,
name, the dude.
yeah, the deaf kid.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that scene where he takes away his hearing aid,
Yeah.
like I think that's a great scene.
Tom Arnold is in this shit. Childless man.
Yeah, that was him
That's
that I
fucking
pulled up in
funny.
that image with Roseanne Barr.
Oh yeah, that was. Oh, he just looked bigger back then. Weird.
Yeah,
That's
it's
fucking very
weird.
funny. Carlos, Ricky Dean Logan. Yeah, Breckin Meyer, pretty that guy. Like we said when we were watching the doing the commentary, he's like, hey, like it's kind of crazy. That was a really fun commentary, but I said some bad stuff. But Breckin Meyer is a pretty I don't know I remember he's a road trip he's in tons of stuff rat race so when I saw him I
Hmm.
was like that's crazy I forgot that he was in this and I don't know I like this one for what it is like the beginning scene where it goes right is the beginning scene is better than the fifth one, that's for sure, with this like sexy intro with Blue and it doesn't even fit like a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. This one where he's like in the house and then it's kind of like da 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 da. It's like Wizard of Oz, and then Freddy's on the broom. It's just so dumb, but there's some part of me that really likes it.
Yeah, that like who would have ever thought you would see Freddy Krueger with a cloak, a witch's hat, or what looks like a witch's hat? I don't know if it's supposed to be his hat, and
What made it bigger? Like it's like
on a
scary movie where the hat just
fucking
get bigger.
broom.
I know.
So ridiculous.
And
Like
your little dog too. He's like, it's so dumb.
something I
Or your little
noticed in this one
soul.
as
Your little
well.
soul too. Yeah.
I noticed it in this one, and it probably happens in all of them, but I noticed it way more in this one. Was they must have had a huge budget for fucking fog machines because
Yeah,
there
yeah, yeah.
is so much smoke and so much fog
Yeah.
like in every scene. There just seems to be like smoke appearing, and I'm like, what is that? Is that like the rags from number 5 thing where they're like, Okay, this time we can't use rags, so we'll just put fog everywhere.
Just smoke everywhere in a barren background. Yeah, it is very true because it's in like a lot of the film. And I don't know. Obviously, they probably didn't get too much to do with this movie. And even that, I'm looking at some of the art in the background. It's just the background doesn't even show any gore. It just shows like, oh, Roseanne Barr and Tom Arnold are in it. Like, there's this one picture of them, and then there's a picture of Alice Cooper. So it's just showing which is not even like, oh, look at to intrigue you. We're gonna put some gory scene on the back. They just put the famous actors on the back. That's the DVD. But like and it's just I don't know. I still enjoy this for what it is. But I also like speaking of like even the comic book scene from the last one. I just thought about it now. I do have a Nightmare on Elm Street comic, and it's in storage, but it's too bad I couldn't have brought it out because it's pretty cool looking. I got it off eBay a long time ago, and they had like comic. So this shit went pretty big.
There we go. I just
See that?
shout out
Yeah.
actually to vhscollector.com. They have like all these cool scans
Oh,
of
that's cool.
movie artwork from literally like every fucking movie from like all different regions and locations.
They can't fucking put Roseanne Barr on the fucking cover, and Alice Cooper makes sense, or Johnny Depp. They can't do that. They're in the movie for 5 seconds. Cover, it's like Robert England, Roseanne Barr, Alice Cooper, Johnny Depp. It's like they can't do that.
That's
Fuckers.
like
Is it the
that
German
gimmick
one or
again.
something?
Yeah,
They
it
can't
must
do
be.
that,
Let me
man.
see if I can pull. Bear with me for one
Oh, that was
second.
Tithead Freddy. I just watched Little Nicky, and I really enjoyed it. I watched it kind of drunk. Great movie.
Let's see if this works. Here we go.
Look, there's Tithead Freddy. It always will remind me now of Little Nicky. Hans Navi Freddy Krueger. Han at Monsters. I can't speak German. That's some sort of fucking German or some shit.
And I do have one more, I think, to pull up. I think it
That
might
that
actually be the
poster's
English
fun.
version.
The Freddy's dead. With Carlos, and he's like turning up the stereo. I like that art. That's pretty fun. Whatever that one is, the one though, that's a weird one. His long arms. That's so weird. Yeah, there's some really dumb scenes in this movie. But hey, it's fun for what it is. Like the scene where he like goes, it's like Roadrunner shit, where like he goes through that screen, like it's just such a weird. Yeah, that's what I was looking at. It's just like it doesn't. This is one I really remember of like the Freddy Krueger costume just being like it's just like the sweater and the glove and the hat on top of each other. I remember that a lot. There's a
This
lot of there's
one, is this another, a different one? I don't know. I feel like I don't remember this one, I don't think, but let's see if you do.
there's very hints of pedophilia in this movie. I remember that one. Yeah, take home in a box. And it's just this one's kind of creepier, but they like hint at it slightly of like the daughter and him being a creep around his daughter, and then you figure out, you know what I mean? It's just this one's weird, but I feel like
Let me actually.
it makes more sense than five. I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't know why this one I did enjoy more than others, but I don't know. There's something about it. Maybe it was a couple of the kill scenes, or just now that I was older, the jokey scenes of Freddy and Freddy being kind of a joke, and liking that kind of dumb humor aspect to it. I don't know. I was also a child,
Um,
so
so let's read the back of this. So they tried to burn him, they tried to bury him, they tried to wash him away with holy water. But like Freddy says, sticks and stones may break my bones, but you can never kill me. There's just one problem. He's run out of kids to spook in Springwood. So Freddy hitches a ride inside some poor soul's dream to the nearest town, and hey, quicker than you can say it, 910 never sleep again. The Dreamstalker's back in business. But enough is enough. Do or die, it's time someone made Freddy hang up his hat for good. So get ready for Freddy in the final nightmare.
he just hitches a ride to a new town. So he finally leaves Springwood, and then he just like that's where this scene is from. Give me a second.
Every town has an Elm Street.
Which is
You
another
know,
like one of those little iconic things I always
iconic
remember.
quote. I don't know, there's certain things like the Alice Cooper being in this film, being Freddy's dad, beating him, and then Freddy like liking it and be like, "Yeah, hit me again, harder, daddy," and he's like slapping himself and laughing.
Yeah,
It's just
weird.
that's some. There was a weird one where I was like, "That's fucking weird," but it's a scene that did stick with me where I was like, "That was just fucking weird." Um, I
So
don't
we
know,
have
like the 3D scene is fucking fun. I don't know, there's some fun shit, but
we
also
have
dumb shit.
5 taglines for this one. So let's see which one of these is your favorite. You think you know about dreams, you know nothing.
That's fucking.
That's terrible.
That's really dumb.
They saved the best for last.
That's weak.
Evil
It's not
has
clever.
finally met its match.
So weak.
I know,
Very
right?
weak.
Take him home in a box.
This is dumb. This is dumb. But I
And
get the VHS kind of.
the last one is, again, this is just like terrible. Born November 2nd, 1984. Dies September 13th, 1991.
Yeah, man. It's like they didn't even try.
I know,
They're trying
right?
to sell. They're trying to tell
None
you
of
that he
them are any
dies in
good.
this one, so go see it. Even I'm looking at the images of where Freddy is not Freddy yet, where he's Robert Englund, but Freddy, like when Freddy before he gets burned, and he has like the sperm demons around him, which I don't know why they like
Mhm.
making them look like fucking fish or sperm things is weird, and they're all like talking to him. Stupid scene, and I still say I do enjoy this movie for what it is because it showed the ridiculousness behind what Freddy became, and maybe that's why it became such a loved franchise, and that people still enjoy some of these weirder, more obscure ones because it's Freddy Krueger. It's fun, kind of retarded, and like it just makes no sense. But like that shit, I just remember being like, "Why do they need to add this?" Yeah, and I said this when we watched the commentary, or watched did the commentary. It's like that. We were watching the movie about that Robert Englund looks weird and creepy in this movie, and
I have
his
that
nose
hairline
takes
right
up
now.
half of his face.
I might actually
Well,
cosplay
you
as
should
him
do
for
that. You should do
Halloween
that
this year.
costume.
I
That's a
might do
great
that.
idea.
Yeah, I might actually do that because
You
I
gotta do
have
a
that
live
hair.
special where nobody gets completely blackout drunk. You gotta do it for
That's
once.
the dream. That's
That
the
is the
dream.
dream. But you could probably do that and get a button-up shirt and then just have a claw in one hand would be very funny.
That's what I'm gonna do. I
I'm trying to think
literally
of, I
have
want to do
that
something
hair.
obscure. That's funny. And I don't know. There's some scene like I even kind of like that it throws back to him being um the girl's father and the scenes of showing who he is kind of behind the scenes, but it is creepy. Like there's definitely where it's just like it's hinting at like molestation and pedophilia,
And
but still not giving it outright in the open.
this sounds weird, but I actually really like those scenes where it's just like him as a person or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I thought
I
it
don't
was
know.
kind of clever.
There's
You
something
always
to it.
wanted to know when you're a kid and you wanted to know why he was the way he was, kind of, even though it was this thrown together. But like I'm looking up some of the pictures, it's so Roadrunner, like making fun of Freddy. Like let's just go above and beyond, making this kind of ridiculous because this is why people throwing. I said this in the other one where like some guy in this is the 80s going to the 90s, especially in the 80s, but some guy's like, okay, let me tell you something, okay? Freddy is gonna be like, he's gonna push out this almost like Road Riley, this big, bunch of nails. It's just like so dumb, because they're just like coming up with ideas.
That your
I know this was,
favorite
yeah,
image ever?
I know this was before Little Nicky, but man, does it not look just like almost very close to the same thing? When Freddy's
Oh
getting
yeah,
his
100%.
head like torn apart, um, yeah, it's very weird. That scene is weird. And why did they? I don't know. Weird choices. I still like it. It's a good movie to watch when you're really high. I would love to eventually one day do watch like a bunch of these on mushrooms. Do a high dose so it lasts like 6 hours. You can watch like three of them, and some of the more stupid ones, like this one, the third and fourth one, and because I feel like they would be just entertaining and just weird to laugh at. And he also has tit head on the screen next to
They,
Freddy.
they
It's
do
very
look
funny.
they do look quite similar.
So would you grab the guy's tits on his head and then fuck his mouth? Would that be the idea?
I mean, I guess that actually doesn't sound too bad, really, to be honest with you.
Just
Um,
fucking be like,
yeah, I was
close
looking
my
up some
eyes.
stuff about this. So,
Oh yeah, the scene where her daughter or the one girl's dad is also like an abuser, molester, and then Freddy takes advantage of that. Yeah, there's very huddle, the subtle. They not subtle at all. They're just very blatant about some of the child abuse shit in this movie, but it's done in this way where it's not. It's more silly than scary and realistic. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I think there's some really clever ideas. And again, I echo what I said before about I feel like if it just had been given a little bit more time, you could have actually made those ideas really fun and good. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, there was some stuff like in earlier versions of the script, they had like Freddy absorbing the entire town of Springwood into a dream world before moving on to the next town, with the dream police
That's clever.
chasing after him.
Oh yeah, and it was Kincaid, and I liked that idea. I liked Peter Jackson's idea, which is was that the lot? No, that was the fifth one. Sorry. I still like the idea of like him being beat up. They could have used that, and I feel like that would have
Yeah,
been
yeah,
funny. To that, you go into the dream world, but I do like the idea of him sucking. Um,
you like the idea of him
just
sucking?
Oh yeah, him sucking. But like absorbing and sucking a reality into nothingness, like a town, or you know what I mean. It's
Yeah, yeah.
clever. Like I think it's kind of cool. Could have been done well, but probably wouldn't have been if they attempted to.
Did you know as well? I thought this was quite interesting. This is the only film in the series in which Freddy doesn't kill anyone using his glove.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
That's disappointing for me.
which is a bit odd, right? Considering that's like a staple of like who Freddy Krueger is.
And they just wanted the kills to be more dreamlike, I guess, and push the
And then
boundaries.
doesn't
Like,
he get killed by the glove?
yeah,
Which is
she wears it.
kind of weird, right?
Yeah, it is really
So it's
weird.
like I don't use the one thing that I'm known for, and then I die by that one thing.
I die by my own hand that I never used. Yeah, it's weird. Um, yeah, so funny.
Here's
That
one
is
actually.
strange.
I'd be interested to see what your take on this one is. And I was actually I meant to when I didn't have time, but I wanted to dig a bit more in and see could I find out more info about this. Um, Originally, the producers had planned a spin-off film in which Freddy Krueger's spirit possesses the body of his daughter, Maggie Burrows, who was played
Mhm.
by Lisa Zane, and she continues in his murderous killing spree, but this never came to fruition after
No,
the
don't do
final
it.
movie was
Don't do
panned.
it.
So this didn't
Oh
do
my
that well, I
god.
don't think, and that's why it didn't
Uh,
happen. But that was like something that they were like, if this hits X amount of dollars at the box office,
yeah.
we are doing this straight away.
And it didn't. But no, like I know people like it, and I'm sure like I think we should sign for Patreon for it to watch it because it is stupid. Is Jason Goes to Hell is fucking stupid. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. That Jason's soul possesses all these different people. I don't like it. I remember watching it as a kid, and we'll get to that, my opinion, on the deep dive of Friday the 13th. But when the scene, oh, man, I don't, oh, fucking man, when he dies at the beginning and then that's it, that's all you see of Jason for like the rest of the film, I was like very angry as a little boy.
Yeah,
Not my
it's
hero,
like,
Jason.
but that's it though. Like that sounds kind of funny or whatever, but that's like, isn't that
Yeah.
what we all and like? Okay, to play devil's advocate for a second, I can kind of see maybe if you're sitting there going, we need to do something different. We can't just keep making the same movie.
Yeah.
So I can understand how that might come into your head, and you might go, wouldn't it be cool, right? Let's just think for a second. Wouldn't it be cool if we done like some weird thing where he's like, it's him, but it's not him, and it's someone different. So it's technically kind of a different movie, but it's the same, and everyone will be happy. And then when you actually sit back and look at the final movie, and you're like, wow, actually, I didn't realize that 99.99999% of the audience want to see fucking Jason and Freddy.
Yeah, it's the whole point. And that's why I'm looking at the image Jason Goes to Hell. And I remember seeing that as a kid and I was like, cool. Except and then now I look at it, it looks dumb. But like it's the whole mask is on the cover and he's just not in the movie. This makes no sense.
Yep.
It's dumb. Never do that. The whole reason why people watch this stuff is before the villain. That's what
I'm
makes
shocked that
it
this
a
didn't
slasher film.
that this franchise didn't get that treatment, you know.
I know. I'm kind of glad
Oh yeah, I'm
if
glad.
it's done in a right way, and you can still have a Freddy Krueger, um, but pass on to someone else, so to speak, but still be kind of Freddy-ish. I feel like it could work, but you have to really do a good job. Um, it's just I don't know.
I feel like
This
though
one is
you
also dumb, but I still like it.
yeah, like again, I enjoy it. There's like lots of parts of it I enjoy, but as a whole, I wouldn't say it's a great movie, but there's lots of
No.
fun, cool things to enjoy about it. And
When he sticks the Q-tip in the ear, no, thank you.
I definitely think you were onto something when you said about like the idea maybe of doing something similar with Freddy, like Candyman from
Yeah.
2021 or whatever it was. I definitely think there's
Mhm.
something to that. Obviously, you're not just going to rip that
Yeah.
idea straight off, but
No.
there's got to be some way there, maybe to, even if you did only bring Robert England back for some sort of a like passing of the torch kind of thing.
Some other child molester gets burned inside of a building, and then it's just like, and then he kind of awakens, and you have him like, feed his soul somehow into somebody else. It'd have to like be written well and have a better idea
Or
than
like I
just
was
sticking
thinking about it,
someone
like
else.
is there is there a way that you could do it that it's like Freddy isn't actually like a singular person in the sense of like I suppose like a Candyman idea where it's more like Candyman isn't necessarily a specific person.
Yeah,
It's more of like an entity, kind of. But then again, it's like
I
you said, it
know.
has to be done very, very carefully because you could, as cool as you could make it, you could make it really shit.
Yeah, you could. And let's go through some of these images of this movie. It's like, yeah, it is dumb. This is like, but I still always liked it, like the video game scene, and this is when you started putting out 3D glass, I think, and it's like dun 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 dun, and then it's like Spencer, the character, is getting stoned on the couch, and he's like it's like psychedelic, and he's like, whoa, man, like I like that whole sequence, and then it's like Johnny Depp, and he hits him with a frying pan, and then like the game scene, it's over the top ridiculous, but that whole scene of him getting stoned, because I smoked weed very young and then watched these movies, I did like, and him bouncing. I said when we did the commentary, bouncing around the fucking room. I'm like, it's so stupid, but it's fun. It's the whole reason why we watch these movies and why they are loved in some ways.
There's some
It's
cool
because they are
images
ridiculous.
of
All the
the
different 3D
yeah the different
images.
ones. So this must be
That's really cool.
some of those are from over here because the Daily Star is a newspaper in England and Ireland,
It's pretty cool.
which is
I think it'd be
strange.
pretty fun. Um, it's just like I don't know. There is stuff that is very enjoyable about this one in scenes, but like the mask is lacking. It's like this is the one I really remember had like one of the worst makeups, because it just they wanted to be like a mask instead of more grotesque, and it just looked like plastic on his face, and you could tell kind of. But there's like the bus. There all this like the kill scenes are fun and different. He like I don't know it, but it is. This is definitely probably when it comes to gags and it making it goofy. This is by far the goofiest one. Yeah, when his head
What
flies.
is that like?
Man,
What is that?
it just doesn't make sense. And there's so and then when those things like fuck them up, and then they're like the sperm creatures come back, and then it's just the ending's weird, but I don't know. I liked it because I did like some of the set pieces at the ending, and I did like the girl that played like the main character. Like when I was younger, and still I it. So like she wasn't a terrible actress, and some of the characters in this film are fun. Like the main dude, I don't mind too much, and I like the characters. Maybe that's why I also enjoy this. And there's just some fun kill scenes and over the top stuff where I wasn't scared to watch this as a kid, but I still enjoyed it for being a horror movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. It's again, it's another one of those like we're not knocking this here, but I feel like that like obviously as a franchise goes on, it gets harder and harder to keep to keep it, I think, dialed in and keep the entire runtime perfect and like really good consistently. So like I feel like,
Yeah.
and I'd say the more deep dives we do, the more franchises we cover, we're gonna find that probably that similar kind of thread of like there's really good parts of these movies, but then there's like really like dumb parts that literally don't make any sense, and I don't know why they're in the film.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's so
something I
strange.
noticed, I've been doing from doing the research for this, and then like I've been doing some research on sleepaway camp, and
Yeah, so it should be next for this
I
summer.
know what you did last summer, and
Mhm.
the amount of times I didn't realize this, that when you're sitting there watching a movie, you're like, why the fuck, why is this in, like, what's going on, why is this here, why is this
Yeah.
scene here? The amount of times that happens through pure filler of being like,
Yeah, I agree.
okay, we're at like 60-minute runtime, we need to hit like 80 minutes or 88 minutes. Can you like do some like weird stupid scene that doesn't make any fucking sense that takes up like 15 minutes?
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's just it's they add this stuff in because they don't know what else to do, and they the weird way that a lot of films, especially that are rushed or shot, they shoot certain scenes first that they know they want to get, and they're like, okay, well, how does it explain this kill scene or what happens here? And it's just kind of disappointing, but like, yeah, and you're gonna hear that when we dive into all this stuff because I'm truly a massive horror fan when it comes to slasher films specifically, and some paranormal. I love all horror, but there's definitely, like I've said on the show, that there's definitely movies that I haven't seen that people are always surprised I haven't seen or watched more of. And it's because I know I like what I like, and I will give everything a try at least once. But I've lived my life in a relationship where you gotta be courteous sometimes and not force all these terrible horror movies down your significant other's throats.
I had a really hard time with that for a while,
I
like
know it's
anybody that
tough.
came into my life, I was like, you
Yeah,
have to be me, and if you're
I
not
know,
me,
I know.
then I can't spend time with you.
Exactly, and it's hard, but differences it makes the relationship a little more
I
fun.
swear to God, like, and I know
Uh,
it's a little bit off kilter, but I'm not messing, dude. Where this is maybe something we could do sometime for a rant episode, but like, I used to have a really hard time with that, to the point where it was like I would be in crisis if the person didn't feel like I felt about something.
I know, and it's just so funny because the women that I was attracted to, like growing up and stuff like that, were like blonde preppy chicks, and like Chelsea's like a lighter brunette, but like she was also kind of preppy. Like I always liked that, like the look of the preppy girl, but realistically, like if I wanted someone to be the exact same as me, it'd have to be like I'd have to find some goth chick that I might not even like
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm
yeah.
trying to find. Like, sounds bad, but like, I'm not saying that's bad either because I can find that attractive too. But I'm just saying that like that. I never
S-
went with someone that was a lot like me, and you know what I mean. It's just kind of weird.
yeah, and this, it's funny, right? Because and I was probably exactly the same, but I do remember at one point in life, I did actually meet a chick who was kind of like grungy, kind of gothy,
Yeah,
and it just, whew, that ended in an absolute car crash. And like then I realized,
she
I was
tried to
like,
cut off his balls with a razor blade.
but well, it was one of those things. I was like, huh, maybe I don't want to be in a relationship with myself. Maybe I'm not that fun.
No, and I at one point when I was younger, I'm a Scorpio. It makes sense, eh? But I dated another Scorpio, and it was just chaos because she was too much like me in the bad ways that I didn't like
Yeah,
about myself
yeah,
almost, you know
yeah.
what I mean? And people can believe in zodiacs or not. I tend to think that it's possible that the alignment of the stars and the moon and I do believe in reincarnation, all the stuff, and that supposedly that certain you're born in certain time periods and months and days and stuff like that, and it will reflect your personality to an extent in this physical reality. You always take part, like the main part of you, who you really are to your core, but you get layers of like personality added to certain times when you're born if you reincarnate. That's just my view of it. So because Scorpio's just like me. You read it's like to a T. My match is a Pisces, and Chelsea's is a Pisces. She helps like balance me out. So it is. It's kind of weird how things work out. And then you ask people that are in like bad relationships that can't make it work, and they're butting heads all the time, and they just can't seem to make it work, but seem to love each other. If you look up their star signs, it usually like tells you that they should not really be interacting.
which is
You
wild.
know. It's weird how it can be semi-accurate, but this is just people guessing. But who knows?
Outside of the original Nightmare on Elm Street, then, right before we
My
close this thing
favorite.
off, if you could
Yeah.
only watch one other movie out of the ones we've done so
In the
far, so
series?
from 2 to 6,
Yeah.
which one do you think that you would pick?
Um, it's very hard. My penis. I mean, no. This decision's hard. Uh, I don't know. I would probably. I. It's hard actually. Like there's a part of me saying probably 3 or 6, and I really do enjoy 4, but I feel like 3 or 6.
Those were the two. I was
Um,
like, would I prefer to watch 3 or number 6? And at first I was like 6, and I was like, but what about Dream Warriors?
yeah. I know because Dream Warriors is really good, and like even Dream Masters is fun, but like 6, I don't know. I liked it when I was a kid. And it's goofy. Like it's something I could watch while I'm like tripping balls or like smoking tons of weed, chill with friends, and laugh at it and be like, look, because there's scenes of this fucking. I was looking through the pictures. There's scenes of this movie of his face, and it's like, souls or whatever. When he like eats that one kid's soul, it's like rubbing his tummy and like he looks like a. If you bring the up, it's if you look up great old movie the final nightmare scenes, you can bring it up where he looks like he's kind of Asian. He's like rubbing his belly and his like eyes are squinting. And even when he's playing the video game, he's like got this wet mouth. And I said this during the commentary.
Yeah,
Is like
that's really
it's
weird.
just scenes that like stuck with me where and he like his when he pops open his eyes and he makes those like he makes a couple of like stupid jokes, especially towards the end, and like looks at the camera and breaks like the barrier or whatever. And it's just like these scenes that made me think of how ridiculous, and maybe that's why I liked it. It's so dumb.
Yeah, I would probably say the same. Probably number 3 or number 6. Like there's little scenes here and there that I'm like, I wish this was in that movie instead or whatever. Like it's in number 2, right? The pool scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know
Yeah,
why,
he
right?
looked cool in that
Because
scene. He
that's
looked cool. The makeup
like
was better,
it's kind
definitely
of
in this one.
ridiculous, doesn't really make sense or whatever. But I was like, I
Yeah,
kind of like this at the same time. But also, I can
I
sometimes
know.
when I look at it, he looks so small. He's like my height, and he's running around. There's like 6 foot
Yeah, it
5
just doesn't
college
make
dudes.
sense.
I'm like, this does not
Yeah.
play well.
No, and there's very iconic scenes from this whole franchise, at least 1 through 6, because we'll get into some other stuff. But part of the reason why I do really love Freddy Krueger is because it is kind of goofy, and Robert Englund does well at that, where it's not um too campy and ridiculous. It definitely is. It's definitely campy and ridiculous, but it's not. I don't know. I feel like it could be worse, but like I don't.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
always liked Freddy Krueger, but my main thing I've collected most of my collection of stuff that I do have is like Nightmare on Elm Street stuff. I really, really, really love the original Nightmare on Elm Street, one of my favorite horror films of all time. But I don't know. There's something about Freddy Krueger I've always enjoyed very much, and I will go back to these movies when I'm dead. Like when I'm in the old folks' home, I don't want to watch war documentaries. I want to watch, like
this.
my
Yeah.
grandfather did. He used to watch the History Channel all day when he had a stroke, and he was like, couldn't even, he would probably, he's probably thinking, but he can't talk or do any. Like he's gone now, but like I thought that's a sad existence to live. Sorry to bring it to a fucking downer at the end of this, but like he would just sit there and watch the History Channel and watch a war. And I'm like, is this really what you want to watch? Like, come on, you're like on your deathbed.
All right, now that you mention that, and it's like I don't want this to sound like overly grim or end the whole thing on like really grim note or anything. But I was only thinking that the
Yeah.
other day. I was like walking my dog or something with my kid, and I was just like I don't know. I was like looking at my hands or something, and like
Yeah.
like the cuts on him, the wrinkles and stuff, and I was like,
Yeah.
what's really weird? Like every day that goes by, my body is failing more and more, and like at some point, I won't be able to do the things I do right now, and how
Yeah,
shit
100%.
that is.
I have like pretty yeah. I have pretty bad carpal tunnel. I feel like there's one day where my hands is gonna be frozen like this, and I won't be able to type anything anymore. And then it's just like it is weird. Like I'm trying to get healthy as I possibly can because part of me thinks the world is coming to an end. That it's gonna get really, really sorry, but it's gonna get really scary, like a nightmare if we're not careful of keeping people in power in check. So like it is, I want to get stronger, but it's just we live in a thing where they're just trying to poison you at every
Yeah, I
angle
know,
and
right?
shit's
That's the
over
thing, and it
you're a
works.
downer. Yeah, and with even our minds, like it's psychologically, and this is why I love horror movies because you can analyze them in different ways, and they're meant to be like psychologically fuck with you. They're not like they're whether it's a kids show that's psychologically try to fuck with kids, and you don't even know it because they drip feed stuff to us. These ones are you know what you're kind of getting, but like that's my truly my worst nightmare is the government restricting my freedom. And so that's truly my biggest nightmare to end on this, but like
Yeah,
that is
and I think for me,
frightening
like
thing.
the older I get and the more it goes on in the world, I
Yeah,
find that like horror for me has always been an escape. Like when I was a kid,
yeah,
not from like
100%.
fucking bullies and dickheads and assholes and
Me
whatever.
too.
And like
Kids
now, I
call me sausage
suppose
fingers. I didn't like it.
later in life, it's like one of those
Yeah,
things where I think now, without even realizing, I use this stuff as like a form of therapy and like escape.
yeah,
So
yeah,
like researching for say like a deep dive like this occupies my mind for a certain amount of hours that takes me away from
yeah,
being like, oh, the whole country is overrun with immigrants and all, and like everything's falling
yeah.
apart, and like there's a
Yeah.
housing crisis in Ireland, and mortgage rates are gone through the roof, and all the taxes are gone up, and this is wrong and that's wrong, and I'm like, yeah, okay,
What the fuck?
let me put on Freddy Krueger, and I can forget about that for 80 minutes.
100%. And that's how I feel. And all of this, and that's why and all I think a lot of people that listen to our show would think the same thing. And even the way that I do Stranger podcasts, where I'm like, I don't need to be like this. Like a lot of there's shows that are like serious and try to be intellectual and like really analyze every little thing. And oh, they're using all this psychological warfare and let's break it apart and this occult magic and stuff like that, right? And I think a lot of shows do that where it's just like they're I don't really the whole point of the show is like we're drinking, having fun, smoking up, having stupid conversations like you'd have with your friends about things like Mothman, cryptids, horror movies, paranormal, true crime, all that type of stuff. And it's because I want people to have an escape. Yeah, these scary things could be happening, and there could be an 8 foot tall reptilian creature fucking your mom. But like, we want to have fun with it at least while we talk about it, because like that's the whole point. I want to give people an escape from the nightmare stuff. And it is fun. I do like talking about the political stuff on my show, and it comes up sometimes on this show. And I really do enjoy warning people about what's coming to wake people up. But most of the times, it's just like at the end of the day, either we stop what's going on and we come together and see that our differences are more or less the same in general, or we just need to live our lives. And my buddy at work said this could be the good days, the good old days. So like enjoy them while they
Yeah, that's
last.
true. That is fucking true. Um,
So I wanted to say that I wanted you to bring up some of the Freddy Krueger toys, but let's save that because I want people to I want to do this sooner than later. I think it could be a lot of fun, but we're gonna do like a live special on both of our YouTubes, and we're gonna bring up like weird off-brand toys. I definitely want to bring up some like a lot of horror style brand toys, but other we can bring up tons like
mhm.
some because I literally had a Patreon idea for like inappropriate toys. Well, I feel like that could also be saved for another episode, but I do think that we should talk about like the obscure, weird off-brand horror toys specifically, and then we'll do one. And this could be a lot of fun for YouTube and stuff like that for all the people that watch the show. And if the commentary is good enough, then for sure we're gonna release it in audio. But definitely one about inappropriate toys because there's a lot of them.
100%.
It's
Yeah.
just over the top ridiculous.
Um,
So
and
there's some weird. I was looking at Freddy Krueger toys today. They're ridiculous.
Yeah, so for everybody who's gotten this far, I suppose just to give you a little idea of looking forward, maybe for the rest of the summer, at least on this show specifically. Obviously, we're going to have shit tons of stuff as well that we're going to be doing over
Yeah.
on Tom's show, Strange Brew Podcast. But as regards, I guess, a forecast for this side for right now,
Yeah, yeah.
I think we're definitely going to do that weird like off-brand knockoff weird toys thing. That's definitely a good idea.
Just sounds so much fun.
Um, we want to do Cabin Fever, the original Cabin
Yes, I haven't
Fever.
seen it in a long time.
A deep dive on Sleepaway Camp and a deep dive on the I Know What You Did Last Summer franchise. They'll just be probably one-parters, I would imagine.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm very excited for that sleepaway camp. There is a commentary on my Patreon that me and Anton did for that, but I watched it outside recently. Had some drinks by the fire, put up the projector and watched it, and that's a fun deep dive that I don't think most people wouldn't have done. That people have
Mm-hmm.
talked about it. They're not going to do like our style of deep dive. Sorry, Freddy's in my throat. Um, but I do know it. I think I know what you did last summer is going to be a lot of fun because I can say I don't remember the last time I even watched the original. I've seen it like 2 or 3 times, 4 times maybe, but I can tell you right now I don't remember the last time I watched any of the I know what you did last summer movies at all.
I think that'll be interesting. I especially like the fact that they're those kind of franchises that we can just do it in one singular deep dive.
Yeah, and sit
Um,
there and just shoot the shit talking.
and
We'll
then
bring up a lot of fun facts and
I think finally then for maybe like the summer build, then we want to do a commentary and have some fun with Adam's Family Values.
yes. I'm very excited for that. Maybe we'll try to post on Instagram of kind of what's to come in the next couple months on Class Horrorcast. But there's so many ideas. We have a laundry list that is constantly being added to of what we want to do next. And then, it'll be kind of cool as Halloween hits. We're definitely going to do some very disturbing, disgusting, scary stuff on Strange Brew podcast side. And then I feel like on our side, on First Class Horror, we should definitely do some disgusting,
Mm-hmm.
obscure, fucked up movies. Like I haven't seen Society in a long time, and that shit looks gross from what I can
That
remember.
might actually tie into my idea of doing like the Faces of Death deep dive and stuff. We
Yeah,
could kind of put that in with that because that's technically there is a lot of like fucked up stuff in that, both fake
yeah,
and real. There's like some real fucking animal abuse and like fucking suicides and shit. So that'll probably be pretty
yeah.
wild as well.
I think I maybe seen bits and pieces of Society, but it's always a movie that I'm like, should I watch it? I don't know if I want to throw up right now. Like it looks
Yeah,
kind of
that's a
like
weird one.
gross, and
That's a weird
so
one.
that might be worth doing a commentary for like the Patreon, then doing a big review on. But like just doing some Halloween's going to bring a lot of fun stuff. I feel like on both sides of the show. And the time you hear this, we're still gonna be in the summer mode, but like summer's always great because you got all these fun summertime horror movies, and I love watching horror movies outside by a fire, smoking cigars and stuff like that. I try to take advantage of it, and then you kind of lead into it's still nice weather, and you still lead it, and then you lead into October
Mm-hmm.
with like
Yeah.
Halloween, and it's my favorite time, and then winter comes, and then it's shitty for like 5 months, 6 months.
I don't know what we're going to do then. We'll have to find something good so we don't kill ourselves.
Oh, yeah, we'll find some good winter episodes. The thing would be kind of fun to do something on that. Like I don't know, stuff that I haven't seen in a while that I would like give my true opinion on as an adult. You know what I mean? So some of these movies, like I know what you did last summer, will be fun because I probably haven't seen any of those movies since I was like, I don't know, 15, 16 maybe.
Hot take, actually. My favorite of that franchise isn't actually the first one. It's the sequel.
Really?
I still know what you did last summer. The one that's set on the tropical island with Jack Black.
Really? I don't
Yeah,
even
yeah.
remember that
Jack
one.
Black's in that, and he has fucking long brown dreads. He's wearing a
Is there
Hawaiian
one called
shirt.
I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer?
There is.
No way.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
not what it is.
That's the
That's not
three
what
of
it's
them.
called.
There's
I'll always know.
I know what you did last summer. I still know what you did last summer. I'll always know what you did last summer.
uh, re- it's dumb. I will probably really enjoy them, but it's fucking stupid. I still know what you did. Remember, I still know what you did. I still know what you did last summer. Is that Freddie Prinze Jr.? That one looks. I remember all the covers, but
That
that one
one's
looks
supposed to be
definitely
terrible.
cute.
I don't remember that one
Okay,
at
so
all.
great.
Yeah, that is him.
I'm gonna start watching these. Maybe I can convince Chelsea to watch one tonight, and I'm gonna write out my thoughts. I'm gonna take notes while I watch them.
Hmm.
And then it gives my true, and then like that's what's fun about doing some of these deep dives and stuff is, I look up stuff, but usually I'll watch docs if I can. Usually I do watch a bunch of docs and just try to feed my brain information on these films, and then just do it from the top of my head. But you always like it's nice to have you bring up a lot of the facts and the way the movie was done and all those tidbits of information that everyone wants to hear about. And then I'm truly just going to give you my thoughts on what I think about the film.
Yeah,
That's
I
why
think it's a good
some of
mixture.
the obscure movies will be interesting to talk about.
Yeah, I think it's a good mixture. It's not just like the samey, like reading the Wikipedia or whatever.
No. Guys licking each other's buttholes. Being like, this
But
tastes
yeah,
like you taste like.
I never know how to outro these things. So yeah,
No,
keep an eye
neither
out
do
for
I.
that.
I'm like just talking about buttholes now. Yeah. So
Everybody love everybody.
yeah. This was a lot of fun. I hope all the fans do enjoy this. For this one, we're like, all right, like we'll probably keep the second deep dive to like 2 hours. Like we can pull it off, get everything we need to say, and it's almost 3 hours now. So like this is what happens.
Yep.
This is what we love this stuff so much, where we end up talking about it way longer. I always tell Chelsea, my fiance, I'm going to be done at this time, and then it's an hour later. So it always happens. So I'm really excited for what's going. I want to get this out of the way. I love Nightmare on Elm Street. Always have. It's literally what got me into horror movies. I love this franchise. There's still more to come. So, and that stuff we're going to probably do near the winter of doing stuff like a new Nightmare, and we'll eventually cover like the remake and definitely shit on it, but it'll be fun to do at the same time. But there's still a lot of stuff, and I enjoyed doing this. Scream was fun, but like I love Nightmare on Elm Street. This is what like really got me into horror. So, and I've never seen anyone do like a full on deep dive into some of this
me
stuff.
neither.
And I give you my true opinions and what I think. And I truly love these movies, even how goofy they are. And without these type of movies, I don't know if I would have gotten the horror as much as I did. Slasher films are my thing. It was like, it's kind of scary, but it's still silly. I'm not having nightmares. I want to hang out with Freddy.
Without characters like this, we might not even have the horror genre that we know now. Like, I don't mean just slasher. I mean just in general. Like characters like this built the entire genre.
Yeah, I agree. All right.
Die, you little bitch.